Okay. All right, now everything's cooking. So let me come back here and say hello to everybody. Hi, you're watching me. And that's not really a castle behind me. It's just a picture of a castle. Anyhow, it's a famous painting. This is not a pipe. Anyhow, you're watching Going Viral. Today is the 26th of November, 2025. And we're starting this gathering today with Alex Stavropoulos and Jim Dingman, both in New York, and other people will be joining us. But the first thing we're going to do is go on the very topical subject of AI. And what I'm going to do here is pull up what I think is a reasonable explanation of it. And then I'm going to share it. And let's see.
Procrastination, and I gotta tell you, we've been lied to. It turns out procrastination is actually the secret to finding your purpose. And
if you don't have a technical background,
not seeing it.
Okay, now here we go. I know I'm going to share it. I have to pull it up before I share it.
Okay.
And there we go. So now I can get around to sharing it. And that's not it. There's the share. There's this. And here's the share. And they keep changing the interface, didn't they? Trying to see where the thing is about the sound. Oh, here it is. Okay, and here we go. I'm going to share this now without doing the, oh, they do have the advanced. Okay. So PowerPoint portion of the screen, share. And I go here. Start with this nice Asian gentleman who I think gave us a really good definition of what's going on. So let me just start it.
but you still want to learn the basics of artificial intelligence, stick around because we're distilling Google's 4-hour AI course for beginners into just 10 minutes. I was initially very skeptical because I thought the course would be too conceptual. We're all about practical tips on this channel. And knowing Google, the course might just disappear after 1 hour. But I found the underlying concepts actually made me better at using tools like ChatGPT and Google Bard, and cleared up a bunch of misconceptions I didn't know I had about AI, machine learning, and large language models. So, starting with the broadest possible question, what is artificial intelligence? It turns out, and I'm so embarrassed to admit I didn't know this, AI is an entire field of study, like physics, and machine learning is a subfield of AI. Much like how thermodynamics is a subfield of physics. Going down another level, deep learning is a subset of machine learning, and deep learning models can be further broken down into something called discriminative models and generative models. Large language models, LLMs, also fall under deep learning, and right at the intersection between generative and LLMs is the technology that powers the applications we're all familiar with. ChatGPT and Google Bard. Let me know in the comments if this was news to you as well. Now that we have an understanding of the overall landscape and you see how the different disciplines sit in relation to each other, let's go over the key takeaways you should know for each level. In a nutshell, machine learning is a program that uses input data to train a model. That trained model can then make predictions based on data it has never seen before. For example, if you train a model based on Nike sales data, you can then use that model to predict how well a new shoe from Adidas would sell based on Adidas sales data. Two of the most common types of machine learning models are supervised and unsupervised learning models. The key difference between the two is supervised models use labeled data and unsupervised models use unlabeled data. In this supervised example, we have historical data points that plot the total bill amount at a restaurant against the tip amount. And here the data is labeled. Blue dot equals the order was picked up, and yellow dot equals the order was delivered. Using a supervised learning model, we can now predict how much tip we can expect for the next order given the bill amount and whether it's picked up or delivered. For unsupervised learning models, we look at the raw data and see if it naturally falls into groups. In this example, we plotted the employee tenure at a company against their income. We see this group of employees have a relatively high income to years worked ratio versus this group. We can also see all these are unlabeled data. If they were labeled, we would see male, female, years worked, company function, etc.
Did you want me to stop this,
No,
Alex?
it stopped. It stopped.
You're not watching it?
It's on for me.
Really? It's on?
Yeah.
All right, got it.
Okay, I'm going to continue now. Let's see where it is.
We can now ask this unsupervised learning model to solve a problem like, if a new employee joins, are they on the fast track or not? If they appear on the left, then yes. If they appear on the right, then no. Pro tip, another big difference between the two models is that after a supervised learning model makes a prediction, it will compare that prediction to the training data used to train that model. And if there's a difference, it tries to close that gap. Unsupervised learning models do not do this. By the way, this video is not sponsored, but it is supported by those of you who subscribe to my paid productivity newsletter on Google Tips. Link in the description if you want to learn more. Now we have a basic grasp of machine learning. It's a good time to talk about deep learning, which is just a type of machine learning that uses something called artificial neural networks. Don't worry, all you have to know for now is that artificial neural networks are inspired by the human brain and looks something like this. Layers of nodes and neurons. And the more layers there are, the more powerful the model. And because we have these neural networks, we can now do something called semi-supervised learning, whereby a deep learning model is trained on a small amount of labeled data and a large amount of unlabeled data. For example, a bank might use deep learning models to detect fraud. The bank spends a bit of time to tag or label 5% of transactions as either fraudulent or not fraudulent. And they leave the remaining 95% of transactions unlabeled because they don't have the time or resources to label every transaction. The magic happens when the deep learning model uses the 5% of labeled data to learn the basic concepts of the task. Okay, these transactions are good and these are bad. Okay, apply those learnings to the remaining 95% of unlabeled data, and using this new aggregate data set, the model makes predictions for future transactions. That's pretty cool. And we're not done because deep learning can be divided into two types: discriminative and generative models. Discriminative models learn from the relationship between labels of data points and only has the ability to classify those data points. Fraud, not fraud. For example, you have a bunch of pictures or data points. You purposefully label some of them as cats and some of them as dogs. A discriminative model will learn from the label, cat or dog, and if you submit a picture of a dog, it will predict the label for that new data point, a dog. We finally get to generative AI. Unlike discriminative models, generative models learn about the patterns in the training data. Then after they receive some input, for example, a text prompt from us, they generate something new based on the patterns they just learned. Going back to the animal example, the pictures or data points are not labeled as cat or dog, so a generative model will look for patterns. Oh, these data points all have 2 ears, 4 legs, a tail, likes dog food, and barks. When asked to generate something called a dog, the generative model generates a completely new image based on the patterns it just learned. There's a super simple way to determine if something is generative AI or not. If the output is a number, a classification, spam, not spam, or a probability, it is not generative AI. It is Gen AI when the output is natural language, text or speech, an image or audio. Basically, generative AI generates new samples that are similar to the data it was trained on. Moving on to different generative AI model types, most of us are familiar with text-to-text models like ChatGPT and Google Bard. Other common model types include text-to-image models like Midjourney, DALL-E, and Stable Diffusion. These can not only generate images, but edit images as well. Text-to-video models, surprise, surprise, can generate and edit video footage. Examples include Google's Imagen Video, Cog Video, and the very creatively named Make a Video. Text-to-3D models are used to create game assets, and a little-known example would be OpenAI's Shape-E model. And finally, text-to-task models are trained to perform a specific task. For example, if you type, "@Gmail, summarize my unread emails," Google Bard will look through your inbox and summarize your unread emails. Moving over to large language models, don't forget that LLMs are also a subset of deep learning, and although there is some overlap, LLMs and Gen AI are not the same thing. An important distinction is that large language models are generally pre-trained with a very large set of data and then fine-tuned for specific purposes. What does that mean? Imagine you have a pet dog. It can be pre-trained with basic commands like sit, come, down, and stay. It's a good boy and a generalist. But if that same good boy goes on to become a police dog, a guide dog, or a hunting dog, they need to receive specific training so they're fine-tuned for that specialist role. A similar idea applies to large language models. They're first pre-trained to solve common language problems like text classification, question answering, document summarization, and text generation. Then, using smaller industry-specific data sets, these LLMs are fine-tuned to solve specific problems in retail, finance, healthcare, entertainment, and other fields. In the real world, this might mean a hospital uses a pre-trained large language model from one of the big tech companies and fine-tunes that model with its own first-party medical data to improve diagnostic accuracy from x-rays and other medical tests. This is a win-win scenario because large companies can spend billions developing general-purpose large language models, then sell those LLMs to smaller institutions like retail companies, banks, hospitals, who don't have the resources to develop their own large language models, but they have the domain-specific data sets to fine-tune those models. Pro tip, if you do end up taking the full course, I'll link it down below, it's completely free. When you're taking notes, you can right-click on the video player and copy video URL at the current time, so you can quickly navigate back to that specific part of the video. There are 5 modules total, and you get a badge after completing each module. The content overall is a bit more on the theoretical side, so you definitely want to check out this video on how to master prompting next. See you on the next video. In the meantime, have a great one.
With AI,
you can create any character you want in seconds.
This used to require huge Hollywood budgets.
Software in tons of time.
Okay.
But right now, all you need is a...
So we're cooking. Did you get any of that?
Yeah.
I mean, that to me sounds like it's a very medical viewpoint, like, well, we have so many different kinds of cancer, and the kind of cancer is male and female. That's our primary
definitions.
But maybe it's human and then animal, and then on the animal, it's for mammals. You know, it's just it's the process of categorizing and subcategorizing and Venn diagrams.
Yeah.
And but on the other hand, he did give some examples of the kind of evaluations it does.
Yeah.
You know, that's the basic thing. So I have a thing on the Chinese, and you have a thing on the Chinese. You want to put yours up?
Oh, no. It's not. It's on Palantir.
Palantir?
Corp. Yeah. Because it's a base. Well, basically, you should dump your stock if your Palantir stock if you own it, because it's clearly again, probably one of the most overvalued stocks, and it's clearly going to crash soon. Because again, which again the high ups in the corporation know, because they've been selling their own stock, while they're saying everybody else should buy it. And if you say and again, some pretty famous people are shorting the stock. Did you see The Big Short?
No, but I heard this guy who predicted.
Yeah, the guy Michael Burry, the guy who Christian Bale is like the famous.
Yeah, but he said that about
for figuring out that what was going to happen to the housing market. And so he's shorting Palantir now. And again, he's been right about several things like that. So
yeah, but I think he was shorting AI also.
Yeah, well, again, it's
the AI companies.
It's completely obvious that it's a giant bubble. I mean, you just look at what the price to earnings. Well, the price to earnings ratio. They're clearly crazy. Like, he doesn't talk about it here, but Ben was pointing out like, Nvidia is people are predicting it's going to go to $20 trillion market valuation by 2030, when the entire U.S. economy is going to be like $36 trillion. So one company is going to be half of the economy, which is that's not real. That's got to be overvalued here. But I'll but here
Well, I mean, the thing is, when people make predictions,
yeah.
they're
Well, no, I
they're
mean, but
they're
that's
not
crazy.
they're not
That's
considering.
just, that's just okay.
Oh,
So
I've
here's
seen
the
this guy before. Isn't that the guy?
yeah, I was just saying about getting good stuff. So, but again, he's focusing just now on Palantir again, and you're going to see again the company's own executives prove that it's like getting into Ponzi territory because again they're selling. You'll see they're selling their own stocks, while they're saying other people should buy it. So it's a total, it was completely unethical and like a scam essentially. But here it's we won't play all of it because it's 20 minutes. But here,
Okay,
this will give you the central. Wait, let me full screen it. Give it a second. Oh, here we go. All right, come on.
Yeah, take your time. It's
Okay.
just me. I'm the only guy here whose time you're
Yeah,
wasting, and I'm
just needs
wasting your time, and you're wasting my time, and that's good.
Oh, here we go. Okay, so you're seeing that, right? You're seeing it. Okay, you're seeing the screen. Okay.
How could I
so
forget those blue eyes?
He's a good-looking guy. He's actually he's living in China now.
In China?
Yeah, he moved there.
Skyrocketed to completely irrational levels. This was based purely on speculation. This is why some famous investors announced that they were shorting Palantir stock, that is essentially betting that Palantir's stock price will go down. And in response, the executives of Palantir freaked out. The CEO of Palantir, Alex Karp, went on TV and he claimed anyone shorting Palantir stock is crazy.
We delivered the best results anyone's ever seen. They're actually shorting one of the great businesses of the world. The idea that chips and ontology is what you want to short is batshit crazy.
And he told retail investors, average people, to buy more and more of Palantir stock, claiming they were going to get rich by continuing to inflate this completely irrational bubble.
Skip this. Oh, see, now we're getting AI.
Bubble.
The people who piled in to Palantir were people investing their own money, often people who are not in the investor class, non-experts. And even till today, the experts sit on the sideline and say, hey, this can't be true. While the average American who invested in Palantir, and for the first time, maybe arguably since World War II, average Americans got venture returns investing in Palantir. When I hear short sellers attacking what I believe is clearly the most important software company in America, therefore in the world in terms of our impact, simply to make money and trying to call the AI revolution into question, it just is super triggering because these people, they can pick on any company in the world. They have to pick on the one that actually helps people, that actually has made money for the average person, that is actually supporting our warfighters. Why do they have to go after us?
But just 2 weeks after Palantir's CEO went on TV and said that, 16 days later, the CEO of Palantir and other top executives sold off more than $200 million worth of their shares in Palantir, cashing out because they recognized that the bubble was starting to pop. This is according to documents filed with the SEC, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. Later on in this analysis today, I'll go into further detail looking at these documents, showing how CEO Alex Karp sold off $96 million of Palantir shares, or how another co-founder of Palantir, the president of the company, Stephen Cohen, sold off $66 million of Palantir shares on the exact same day. And also on the same day, the chief technology officer, the CTO of Palantir, Shyam Sankar, sold off $37 million of Palantir shares. This was just 2 weeks after Palantir's CEO went on TV and said anyone betting against Palantir was crazy. And he told retail investors, average people, to continue buying Palantir's stocks, claiming it would make them rich. This is extremely unethical behavior. From 2024 until March 2025, in just over a year, Palantir's CEO Alex Karp sold off $1.9 billion worth of shares. That's in addition to the 96 million that he sold off in November 2025. This is the perfect symbol of the financialized US economy, which is built on this massive house of cards, an extremely unstable casino in which average people are deceived and told they will get rich by participating in these bubbles, by helping to inflate these massive bubbles in companies like Palantir, which also is very closely linked to the Donald Trump administration. That's, of course, a big factor in this. It's not a coincidence that this bubble in Palantir's stock price began to inflate in November 2024 when Donald Trump won the US presidential election. This mania was being driven by the fact that Palantir was being given massive contracts from the Trump administration, including nearly $1 billion worth of contracts just in the first 2 months of Trump's second administration, starting in January 2025. In particular, the Trump administration chose Palantir to conduct mass surveillance of Americans, using Palantir's software to sift through data and unify the data from across US government agencies in order to compile profiles on US citizens. This is the kind of mass surveillance we see in dystopian regimes in sci-fi movies and, 1984, Big Brother. This is what Palantir has been doing with the Trump administration. Well, that, and also Palantir has been preparing for World War III, and the co-founder and CEO of Palantir, the billionaire Alex Karp, said that the US government is preparing for a three-front war against Iran, Russia, and China. So in addition to helping the US government carry out mass surveillance of Americans, Palantir is also preparing for World War III. But to be fair, this all didn't start under Donald Trump. For many years now, the majority of Palantir's revenue has come from government contracts, primarily with the US government. That's not only the Trump administration, but also Democratic administrations like the Biden administration, and also from European governments, especially the United Kingdom. So Palantir is playing a more and more important role in Western governments in general, with Western militaries, the military-industrial complex, and espionage and mass surveillance and intelligence gathering and synthesizing and compilation. But despite having these US government contracts, Palantir was actually losing money until 2023, which explains why after it had an IPO and it became a publicly listed company in 2020, if you look at its stock price in that period, it was pretty stagnant. There was not that much investor interest in Palantir. But then things changed when Donald Trump won the presidential election in November 2024. Investors correctly assumed that Trump, given how close he was to Palantir, that his administration would give even more favorable contracts to Palantir. And suddenly, Palantir's stock shot up. But again, this was completely irrational, and it hit absolutely crazy levels. Now, to determine whether or not a stock is overvalued, investors typically look at the price to earnings ratio, PE, which is exactly what it sounds like, a ratio comparing the price of the stock to the earnings of a company. And again, until 2023, Palantir was losing money, so its price to earnings ratio was 0. But then in 2023, it started making money. And then in 2024, after Trump won the election, the price to earning ratio shot up to absolutely insane, cartoonish levels, peaking at 454 of a PE ratio at the end of June 2025. 454. Now, if you don't follow financial issues, you may hear that number and think it's not a big deal. But keep in mind the context here, that the historical average for the S&P 500, that is the main US stock market index with the 500 largest publicly listed companies in it, the historical average for the S&P 500 is a PE ratio of around 20, 15 to 20. Although we've seen in recent years massive financial bubbles, and as of 2025, the average PE ratio of a company in the S&P 500 is 29, nearly 30. which again just demonstrates how bubbly the current situation is in US financial markets. But again, compare the average of 20, a PE ratio of 20, to Palantir's peak of 454. This is totally irrational. It's absolutely insane. It makes no financial sense. And even after Palantir's stock fell in November of 2025, it was still at around 369, 370 of a PE ratio, which is still absolutely insane and illogical. This explains why Palantir's stock started plummeting in November 2025. It was obviously in a bubble. Everyone could see that. And the bubble began to pop, and investors started to freak out, and they started to dump their holdings of Palantir. And a big contributing factor to this sell-off was the famous investor Michael Burry publicly revealed that he was shorting Palantir's stock, which essentially means he was betting that Palantir's stock would drop.
I was muted. Okay, Alex. I don't know if you can answer this. It may be immoral. Is it illegal?
Not illegal. It's again unethical, like you said.
You gotta stop your. What did you say?
It's not illegal to sell your own stock while you're promoting it. No,
it's not
because everybody does it. So
it's not illegal.
You have to jail almost every CEO probably at some point, because of course you're going to talk up your stock whether or not you think it's really good or not, because you want because it's going to put more money in your pocket. And but plenty of people will say they'll know that their company is crap or even is going to go under, and they will say however on MSN and NBC buy my stock. But it's not illegal, but again, like you said, it's unethical, obviously, to tell people to when again your stock's going to go down, to other people to buy it when you're selling your own stock.
Yeah. Yeah, morality is a very variable thing.
Oh.
But so what's the difference between this and insider trading that they keep accusing congressmen of? They get information.
Well, that's using information before somebody else gets it. So like if the CEO he had privately received, we're not going to get that government contract, next month. And then he sold off his stock right before that could become public knowledge. That's insider trading. Because again, you're using your private information, or again, like it could also be like, somebody inside the company talked to you, or again, like as a congressperson that, because that again, Palantir isn't going to get that contract or is going to get it. So you buy or you sell the stock, or you even short it, or you do a put option. The put option is, where you make money if the stock goes up. You predict what the price is going to be, and you get the difference essentially. So I mean, that's insider information. That's again using information some ordinary people don't have. Like again, like if somebody blabs that Palantir is not going to get that contract, and then everybody dumps the stock, then it's not insider trading, because again, everybody knew. It's public knowledge. It has to be private knowledge.
Well, one of the key principles of the corporation are going to have inside information.
Yeah. Well, again,
they're going to go short.
You're not supposed to sell your own stock, again. But again, because obviously people would,
So what do you think
because then if you think about it, like if you just let insiders at a company do that, again, use their insider information, then who's going to trust the stock market? Who's going to invest in, what ordinary or even like, big investors are going to, they're going to be like, it's all a scam. I'm not going to put my money into that, and then the whole stock market's going to fall apart. So you don't want that to happen. Even if even if you think it's okay that people executives scam the ordinary stockholders.
Well, right. So, okay. So they're doing it. So they will do it.
Yeah.
So the question of whether or not they'll get away with it is if there's an advantage
Well,
to some kind of sue.
They can get away with it for a while, but eventually the bill come. The eventual with the stock like this again, it's eventually gonna crash.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
all right. Oh,
yeah.
That's what I was going to ask you. What do you think that company does for a product?
Oh no, well we know what it does. Again, Palantir, they do surveillance, like they said, a lot for the government. They actually their AI is used to for Israeli drones, for example, to target and kill children in Gaza. Literally, we know that's what happened. They're but again, not Microsoft's cloud is.
No, that's just a phrase.
No, that's literally
Israeli uses that technology to eliminate the threat that would be presented by children in Gaza if they grow up and become soldiers. So we just kill them when they're kids.
No, Ken, because we know quadcopter drones. Again, this is extensively reported and get actually admitted to by Israeli soldiers themselves that they go down and they do shoot children. They shoot women and pregnant women. They do, because there are hundreds of accounts of this happening. And again, and the Israelis even admit it themselves. If you dig,
I understand, but from their viewpoint, it's not immoral or illegal.
So it's
not immoral or illegal.
Up, Ken. This is real again. These are
hold it a second. Wait a minute.
Series of war crimes again that I guess you don't want to hear about because it doesn't make the ethno state you like.
No. They are war crimes. I understand that, and Israel is committing war crimes.
The point is, Palantir's AI is used to do that. They're used to because again, those are AI drones. They're not it's not just somebody who's a human being who's looking through the drone camera and saying shoot that person. The AI is and the AI is set up so that again it shoots civilians. I mean, we're talking about and in like in the hospitals and so on. This is not this is a real world application, as they say. And again, just go look it up on the internet. This is all. And look, that Palantir does this. It's all, that's why people,
wait a minute, slow down. Stop it. 3 guys get in a 1970 Toyota Celica, and they drive to the bank, and they go into the bank, and they kill 6 people, including 3 civilians, 2 of whom who were children. Should we prosecute the Toyota company for making that car?
No, but this is if Toyota bought what the scenario would be if Toyota bought those guys their guns, you would prosecute for some scheme for whatever reason. You would say you would prosecute them on that, right? If Toyota literally bought the guns, in this case again, this company is designing the software that tells the drone to shoot somebody. That's different. That's what's happening again. If you like provide cloud services to the Israeli military that's used to murder civilians, that's
IBM.
You're guilty. And
no, stop it a second. Stop it. The guy who makes shoes for Hitler, is he guilty? If Hitler didn't have shoes, he couldn't have become the
guy
leader.
Who makes shoes for Hitler. This is the guy who builds tanks for Hitler.
Yeah, if the guy makes tanks for Hitler, and he uses them improperly instead of to defend Germany, is the guy who makes the tank guilty? Where do you put cause at?
If at a certain point again, if you might say, okay, they sold the tank to Hitler in 1939 before the war started. You can make an argument, no, maybe he's not guilty. But if the guy, after 2 years of Hitler, committing war crimes and invading all these countries. If you're talking about 1942 and your company is still building tanks for the war criminal, you don't have an argument to say, oh, it's not my fault. At that point, you see what's happening. And again,
okay, wait. Let's forget about what you and I think. Does the World Court or whoever, the UN, accuse people of committing war crimes for contributing to the ability of a country to be aimed?
I can, for another one, I can bring up.
Nuremberg. They prosecuted people who made the ammunition.
There's a UN special rapporteur for Palestine. She's Italian, Francesca Albanese, and she's put out a whole report on different companies, different corporations that are,
I understand
supporting Israel.
But that's just one person. That's not the UN. That's not the.
She's a UN, that is the UN. She's a UN official.
She is not the UN. She's a person.
Yeah.
She's one person. Did the UN come up and say anybody who contributes to the functioning of the state of Israel's army is guilty of the crimes committed under their activity?
No, this is not. These are companies that specifically, participate in the occupation. And again, not just Israeli companies. She has many Western corporate.
Right.
And so on.
They make shoes for the soldiers.
She has a specific report on those that are contributing.
I understand. That's one person. That's one person.
No, she's not just one person. She has a whole team working for her, obviously compiling. Because we're talking again hundreds.
She wrote the report.
Earnings reports and
How does the UN decide what policy to follow? Do they go by whatever one person says?
No, this is all set up by the General Assembly, and
they approved it. Don't they vote on it?
There's the human rights. I know departments. I forget the actual term.
Yeah, so the department says something.
They're a subset of the human rights side of the UN.
I understand that. So they come up with it. Does the UN approve it or not?
The countries of the General Assembly will, they'll say, we're creating these special rapporteurs again for, there could be there's probably one for a lot of them for Myanmar, for Sudan, and for a lot of these, cases where it's clearly, there could be, I don't know, there could be for Cuba or wherever, just wherever that there's a concern in the UN that, human rights abuses. Yeah, I'm sure there's one for China and so on, and other there's
no, you're changing the topic. You're changing the topic. We're talking about people who indirectly support violations of UN standards of what's a gentleman's war. They have war crimes. They didn't fight fair. So if somebody provides food to feed the troops, and if they didn't have that food, they couldn't fight. Are they guilty?
I don't decide, but she's as far as I know.
You like what she does. You like her evaluation. But that's her evaluation.
I mean, I don't know if I haven't looked at that part of the report. I don't know if she includes like feeding, but she definitely. I mean, she focuses obviously on weapons contractors.
Don't assume.
What companies are selling the weapons that are being used to kill civilians in Gaza, which again is pretty obvious. It's not. We know who, and the Israelis tell us and show us with videos again what weapons they're using. They brag about it, so it's not. We know which it's not hard to find. Again, some of the subcontractors.
No, I understand, but she's deciding that these are war crimes.
Well, no, she doesn't have to the international.
Sure, she does.
The International Criminal Court
has the UN declared that supporting a military that commits war crimes is itself a war crime if they provide the material for committing the crime.
That's a standard part of international law. Again,
it is.
Yeah.
Where is that?
That's why.
What do you mean international? Wait a minute. Stop. I don't know. I didn't go study this. I don't go to Columbia. What do you say? It's an international law. What international? You mean the UN?
the international, both the International Criminal Court and the International Court of Justice, which is established by the UN, and
That's under the UN,
and participated in by most nations, and even
but not all.
the ICJ, even the U.S. Well, the U.S. participates in that. And again, there have been essentially precedents, court cases in the past that have shown exactly that. Again, that have convicted other countries and other, I mean, haven't had two big fines, but again, they've convicted, individuals of certain, corporations who sold weapons and genocides in the past.
They did.
They've even convicted in the case of Rwanda. They convicted journalists who were found to have been encouraging the genocide, essentially, from was it the Hutu side? That they had been doing basically propaganda to tell people to go murder their
Yeah,
Tutsi.
well, we know that's not freedom of speech.
So it's established.
If you're instigating immediate harmful murder or harm, that's illegal. But that's not the same as saying, "Oh, let me tell you a nice story about the president who's killing people. I knew him when he used to be horseback riding. He's not a bad guy. If he doesn't have breakfast, he gets very irritable."
Well, the example there is with Japan and Germany and Italy to some. We convicted people from the companies that armed Hitler and the Imperial Japan, and
What about the guy who was the engineer of the train that brought the Jews to the concentration camp?
I mean, I don't know the specifics of that guy. Again, he's probably some of them, but definitely the people who organized the trains, and again, Krupp, members of the Krupp family were convicted. I mean, they weren't executed, but they were sent to jail. And
here's Daryl. Daryl's going to have a viewpoint on this.
Yeah, he's going to
agree. To a degree, Daryl, welcome to the meeting.
Thank you.
We were talking about what were we talking about? First, we were talking about a stock market scam of a guy who's got a company, and they know the executives are telling people to buy the stock, and the same executives are selling the stock, going short. So they're telling people, please buy stock so I can go short, make money off you. And it's the name of the company is
Palantir.
Palantir. That reminds me of that TV show, Paladin. Remember? Paladin, man with it. You know what I mean? Remember that?
Yeah, it's on H&I. Well, at least it used to be.
Yeah.
Palantir is big time in the AI industry. Yeah. Where are you reading the story, Alex?
No, it's from Ben Norden at Geopolitical. No, it has a crazy, price earnings ratio, so it's clearly overvalued.
Well, the guy listening to the guy, he would use phrases like, "It's obvious to everyone. The price was ridiculous." He's making statements like that.
Yeah.
Which you could agree with or not. But the point is, they got a big boost, most likely, because the executives were friends with Trump. And then when he got elected, everybody says, "Oh, man, he's going to make a fortune because he knows Trump. Trump will give him government contracts." They speculated. So that the stock was way overvalued. And most likely that's true. And so it's up in the air, and it's going to fall, or people think it's going to fall. And
I wouldn't be so. There's a guy on the internet, Peter Diamandis, and he has he has a program called Moonshots. I'll send you the one on NVIDIA. And I think they talk about Palantir and that. They're big into AI and crypto and how it all is going to work out. And it will work out for those who are in the position that he's in. But the folks down here, I would say the real world, but there's nothing particularly real about this. I'd like to get your opinion on on what you think of the group as they analyze, quote unquote, where the planet's going, especially with regard to artificial intelligence.
Everybody's entitled to, I think most of us follow the great Lebowski. Hey, man, that's just your opinion. Everybody's got an opinion about what's going to happen, when the world's going to end, and what's right and what's wrong, and what's honorable and what's dishonorable, and what's pedophile and what's just true romance. Remember Jerry Lee Lewis? He got his girl's parents' permission,
Yeah,
but he
married
married
his
somebody who was
cousin,
like
right?
14-year-old girl, I think.
That was his cousin.
And it was her cousin. So, but, he got the girl's parents to give consent. But, he married a 14-year-old. And that a lot of people who are critical of Islam go through this passage in the Quran where he married a 9-year-old, but he really didn't. What do they call that? He didn't conjugate with the girl until he was older.
Right.
But
And
he married somebody 9 years old.
Plus, if you went to Europe at the same time,
yeah,
people were marrying 9-year-olds. So
Oh, he could have married a 9-year-old.
not like Islam was much worse than Iran or Italy.
Yeah, I like that. So that's always, isn't that whataboutism when the guy does? Well, he killed 3 kids. Yeah, but they did the same thing over here, so it's not a big deal.
No, it's just that's called cultural anachronism because again,
All right, call it
it's what people thought 1,000 years ago versus what they think now about the same.
Yeah,
thing,
I don't think it's a big.
You can't. No, well, the point is, for as a historian, you can't. Well, you can. You can't. Use the same standards of culture for something.
Right. So anyhow,
use the standards of the time, not.
So we got into a much more interesting conversation of there are factories or manufacturers or individuals that are supporting countries that are committing war crimes, and the question is how close do you have to get to the crime to be convicted as instrumental in causing it to happen? In other words, I'd say, like, what about Hitler's chauffeur? What about the guy who used to make shoes for Hitler? Is he guilty of the Holocaust? If Hitler didn't have good shoes, he probably couldn't have, brought about the Holocaust. So we got to get the guy who drove. I think they did prosecute the chauffeur and other people like that.
Yeah. Well,
but the question I'm saying is, and I've heard this from a lot of people, they say, these are war crimes. It violates international law. And I'm saying, wait, what international law? Who's running the world? The UN, or, these countries got together and decided this is civilized war. These are the rule, and this is not. These things that violate our standard of how a war should be fought are guilty of war crimes. And I'm saying, like, well, maybe. It depends on your viewpoint. I think, for example, when you look at the history of what Japan did to China, if China went in and killed every single person in Japan, including the children, you couldn't consider them criminals. You'd have to see the massacres, the murder, the people, the torture, the terrorism, the experiments, what Japan did to China. So, it's all relative. It's to some degree subjective.
Okay, because it's not the case that, if the other side it is not international law that, hey, if the other side is doing the something, we could do the same thing to them. That's not, if both sides are committing war crimes, then, both sides, in fact, again,
that's your opinion.
The argument is, if both sides are committing genocide, then they're both guilty. And but Daryl, when you were in the service, they must have, taught you guys the laws of war at some point when you were in the Air Force, right? Or did
you
remember that? Yeah. So yeah, soldiers, they get
United. What is it? UCMJ, United Code of Military Justice. Yeah, I went through that a couple of times. Thank you.
They tell you again, hey, you do this, you can get prosecuted, you can get sent to Leavenworth, right?
So what was that code? I wasn't in the military service. What's the code? Who wrote the code? Is it
the military? The military.
It's
the United States military.
It's actually the Congress, technically. They it's somewhere embedded in laws that Congress has passed. Because like Congress, I forget when, they passed a statute on, well, again, it doesn't apply just to the military, on torture, for example. There's some point in the 90s they passed, and again, also again, remember your Constitution. All treaties have the full support of American law. So if there's something and the Geneva Conventions are treaties that the United States has ratified and the president has signed. So those have the full force of the entire federal legal system. Their law as far as the United States is concerned,
according to the Constitution,
as long as they're part of a treaty. Yeah,
and if that's a line in the Constitution.
That's why, for example, again, you could still prosecute, say, CIA officials who tortured people, and in Guantanamo or Abu Ghraib. You could still,
but wait a minute,
on the books.
Wait a second. The CIA doesn't have to abide by the military code.
No, this is U.S. law. Everybody has to. There's no get out of jail free card for this. I mean, practice there is, but again, the point is that they could be put on trial.
Okay, so
the law is there. They could be tried at any time.
Okay, so the
and
bombs,
there's no statute of limitations.
Let's say theoretically the weapons that Trump authorized to be used at these boats coming from Venezuela, there's about 40, 50 people have been killed. Those boats, let's say they came from Lockheed, made the weapons or
more
designed
like 80
them.
to 100.
All right. So how many people he could? No, the boats is not 400 people. The boats, the drug boats is
100.
No, I'm saying more like 100 people have been
100.
killed.
Okay, 100.
Because they're up to, what is it, 80 boats now that have been taken in?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so can you prosecute the people who made the bombs that they dropped? Can you prosecute the guy who delivered the grease to go into the helicopter that launched the buzz bomb things?
I understand what you're saying.
Where do you stop?
Where
do you stop? Because Alex is saying that a woman in the UN evaluated that there were many different corporations responsible for the drones that Israel used to kill civilians, including children, women and children. Well, women and children are 50% or more of the population. So if you're killing civilians, 50% are going to be women and children. That's the makeup of the world. And in fact, children are going to be men and boys and girls too. So, but Alex is saying the people who made the companies that manufactured or designed the I forgot the word again. The drones are guilty of the crimes that the JDL committed on the population.
IDF, you mean? JDL is a different organ. Which is
IDF.
Although you could argue it's not too different from the IDF, actually. The IDF.
The JDL, is that the Justice
League? You can actually fund
Hade to come out.
The idea, whatever it's called. The guys who made those drones are responsible for the crimes committed by the Israel soldiers. And this woman said so, and it matters because she works for the UN. And what she says is international law. So she's decided they're guilty. That's it. Nothing else has to be done. They are guilty.
After 2 years of this happening, I think you can say, yeah, they know.
Oh, no. Yeah, well, yes, you are entitled to your opinion. You think. That's fine. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying who said where you come. Somebody might say killing women and children in Gaza is reasonable. We do it all the time. I mean, Obama did it all the time. He wanted to get one guy and they blew up a whole fucking family. He's guilty of that. He authorized it.
There's the issue of proportionality, which is
what issue?
Proportionality again. Yeah, how many?
When you're fighting a war, you have to say before you fire one shot, make sure your opposition has the same armament and weapons that you have. Otherwise, it isn't fair.
No, that's not what proportionality means. Yeah, you can't to kill one person, you can't kill 100 people.
Where does it say that?
it's in the Geneva Conventions, that you have to adhere to proportionality. They don't give exact numbers or anything, but again, and look, the military lawyers, when we do our drone strikes, and apparently they're pretty flexible, but again, they're not. Our drone guys aren't going to say, yeah, you can kill 100 people to get that one guy. They might say, oh, you can kill 5 people to get that one guy, and they should be trying as much as possible not to kill any civilians, and you have to make an effort to. And the point is, again, Israel's clearly making no. In fact, again, Israel admits itself that like more than 80% of it's because somebody leaked it. That more than 80% of the people they kill are civilians, and that means that they know are civilians. So again, the actual percentage of civilians is probably higher because, of course, there might be like 5 or 10% of those cases where they're not sure, and probably that would tend to be that because again, 20% of the people in Gaza aren't in Hamas and fighters. The percentage is like under 1%. So,
okay, so I'm gonna wait a minute. I lucked out and I got exactly the right thing here. So let me show you what it says exactly. This is the International Law of Proportional Violence.
Yeah.
And I will read it unless Daryl, you can't see it.
We can see it, Ken.
Daryl, can you see it? Daryl?
Yes.
Can you read it?
Wait, don't highlight it, but yeah.
It's not impossible, but okay. The International Law of Proportional Violence is a principle that governs the use of force in armed conflicts, and self-defense. It ensures that the use of force is rational.
Irrational.
Rational and reasonable. Gotta be, yeah. Is a rational and reasonable exercise towards achieving a permissible goal without unduly encroaching on the rights of individuals or other states. Proportionally, was this done after World War II, Alex?
Yeah, this is going to be from the Geneva Convention.
Which is
and
when?
that's after World War II.
That's 47 through. Some of the later.
Okay, right, all right, I got you. Not that it matters much because I have yet to see a conflict in which any of this stuff is followed. But anyway, suitably requires
proportionality is divided into 3 elements: suitability, necessity, and proportionality. Strictu sensu. That must be a Greek or Latin term. Do you speak?
Latin, yeah.
What does it mean? Strictu sensu.
In a strict sense, I think.
Oh, in a strict sense.
Just from yeah.
Proportionality in a strict. Suitability requires that the measures are appropriate to the objective sought. The necessity requires that the objective can only be achieved by the measures in question, and proportionality, strictu sensu, requires balancing the effects of the measure chosen against the objective sought, considering whether those effects are excessive according to those most affected. The principle is fundamental to the law on the use of force and the law of armed conflict, ensuring that the costs of war do not outweigh the benefits. So there's benefits to war.
Usually, they used to call it spoils.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, it used to make, it would make sense. Would kill everybody between the age of 16 and 70, and recruit them and see if you can get them into our army. If he doesn't join our army, then kill him. But then get rid of the women and children. I don't want to spend any effort keeping them alive, or not the women, but children and old people. When you ravage a city, you break down the walls of the city's walls and you go in and you kill, loot, burn, rape. That's been the history of the world up until the 19th century at least, or the 20th century, and even then it was going on with Japan and as they treated the Chinese and the Koreans, and maybe we might have dropped a bomb or two on Japan near the end of the war, and Germany too with Dresden. So there's a lot of
Yeah,
harsh things that go on. But I'm just saying that you can't that you can't say, oh, you could even say, well, we used to play music for this, and we found that that would calm down these like people like Hitler and Mussolini. If they played some nice music, they would get, be very compassionate about other people and everything. Well, then the court comes along and says, you gave comfort to people that were evil. You're guilty. You know, it's very subjective. The whole thing upstairs there that we just read had a lot of subjective values. What people consider to be this or that, appropriate or inappropriate,
yeah.
proportional or not. But anyhow, that's all. So
Did
this is the
you
law.
did you all discuss the assassination of the what I guess it would be the
No, no.
Hezbollah leader
Uh, no, we didn't.
and the quote unquote collateral damage on that one?
But we didn't. Yeah, we can get to that. Yeah.
No, we didn't get into the
But I
various.
was just using that as an example of, I mean, proportionality is out of the question because I was just thinking about how people are thinking after what was it B-21 dropped the 5 bunker busters.
B2, the B.
It was a B2
On Iran? You mean
yeah.
last month? Yeah, sure.
So everybody's going to be smiling and saying, "Oh yes, Mr. Trump," you know, until they can get to the point where they can be just as wicked as he is.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the way to get to the point where you could at least even defend yourself.
Well, I mean, I think that, I think it's an, it, well, I'll say this up front. It's a nice idea to have a consensus and a cooperation, and we're all going to play the same games. There's going to be monogamy around the world, and everybody, you're going to take care of the disabled people. You're not going to force anybody to commit suicide. You're not going to kill your enemies or people that disagree with you, and you're not going to charge too much to get your teeth fixed. It'd be nice to have an utopian world where everybody's in concord. But in one sense, people have attempted to do that. Hitler tried to do that. He wanted to conquer the world and have one system of government. And the Ottoman Empire wanted to do that. As much land as they could acquire, they put it under one political system. And Russia's tried, and the Genghis Khan has tried, and to make a one world government, where everybody follows the same regulations and morality. But it doesn't seem to present itself.
Well, Ken, again, the issue when John McCain and also Colin Powell said, why we shouldn't torture terrorists is, then we can't complain when other countries torture American prisoners of war, or certainly again when if jihadists capture our soldiers, which has happened, and they decapitate them, we can't be like, well, we kind of gave them the permission to, we committed war crimes, so if they commit war crimes, it's a wash, right? So the problem here again, you can say, yeah, I just don't care about the laws of war and international law. But then again, and the United States isn't going to, at some point, again, it may not exist. At some point, it may not be as powerful, and at some point, we may be at the I mean, probably not anytime soon, but you never know. We might be at a point where we're essentially at the, our enemies can do they can, decide to slaughter our civilian population. And then what are we going to complain about? Or to one of our allies? That's the point, that if we don't, if we don't adhere to any of this stuff, we can't expect anybody else to. And so that's where the problem. That's where. And again, that's what I've heard from most military guys that I've ever talked to. That again, that's why they don't like the idea of allowing torture, for example, or again, war crimes, and we also know that when you do, because people have studied again, militaries that have committed atrocities on a large scale, and basically they devolve. They don't become, if you're spending all your time, killing, just ordinary civilians, how you're not any good at, killing, fighting soldiers for the most part. And also your morality degrades. Not just that, but again, the discipline. That's what people noted that again, that, because again, if you're basically violating these basic rules, why are you going to listen to your superior officer when he tells you, don't, go here, don't go there, attack this trench. If you're basically violating the rules elsewhere, you just get used to, not following the rules, not following the laws. So why are you going to listen to, what anybody tells you? You just become, an animal, just, somebody who just does whatever the hell they want. And again, that they've noted, like with organizations like, say, the Waffen SS that committed atrocities on a mass scale, that was a problem again with them, just as being ordinary soldiers after that.
Would they commit? The question is,
huge thing, because again, they're used to basically not following, just doing what they want, not following the rules essentially for anything. Again, in terms of listening to their own officers as to what to do or not to do. It's like there's no rules anymore. I can do what the hell I want.
Well, I think that there's any entity or military entity, especially, has precautionary solutions for that sort of executing people who are deserters.
Not the IDF, clearly again, because they're clearly a green light to commit.
They don't have court martials
again against civilians.
Alex,
actually, again, we knew about.
Alex, you're saying the IDF does not have any court martials?
They've had. They still haven't put on, actually brought to trial all these soldiers who we know raped prisoners.
I understand that you're upset about that.
No.
The question is, do they have court martials?
They do, but they very rarely use them. And again, we know that hundreds of that the Israeli army commits hundreds of crimes. And we're not just talking about Gaza. Before all this, like before October 7th.
I know. I've been to rallies
committing hundreds of war crimes in the West Bank.
Why aren't you living in the West Bank?
And that they prosecute a tiny percentage of it.
Why don't you go live there?
By Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International and B'Tselem, you can get article after article about how there's impunity for Israeli soldiers committing whatever. Not just that, but actual settlers, going in, killing some Palestinian in the West Bank and never getting, and they know exactly who did it, and they're never, at maybe if it's some kind of egregious crime, like again there was an example of a guy who basically set a whole family on fire, and killed them, and he was prosecuted, but I think he got like a few years for murder. So again, there's also the issue, like and clearly again these are also there are the examples where basically the Israeli army accompanies the settlers as they go and attack Palestinians, destroy their private you care so much about private property can clearly, but when Israeli settlers again go and destroy the private, burn olive trees, kill the animals of Palestinians, then it's you don't support, you don't do anything to have those people prosecuted. So again, it just shows that again, for you as well, private property, it's for some people, not for others.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
You're not going around, saying, again, there are plenty of white collar criminals. I
Alex,
presume you don't go, you're not part of an organization that's like, prosecute, all these executives who force people out of their homes during after the 2008 crisis and stole their homes essentially, basically on with fraudulent, loans. You don't say again. Those guys should be at least as you haven't said so far. I presume you're not. Well, I haven't heard anything about you going out into the streets to demand that. So again, just again pointing out the selectivity of your how you think. Again, which is that's what it's fair. People do that again. We know how it is. Again, Daryl certainly knows. That the law.
I know. The
Yes,
one thing
is very different to
I know. I
to
didn't
people
bring
based
up.
on their race, ethnicity, and a lot of gender, and a lot of other also again gender identity. LGBT people we know have definitely have less rights in this country and are it's treated differently by the legal system. So these are things you have to keep in mind, Ken. From your I know libertarian side that I would hope you would be concerned with again, even if you don't like trans people, that you see there's a point to their legal rights being defended, for example, whatever you think about whether that it's a right to do that. Because those same rights again protect you too, Ken.
Yeah, thank you very much.
White guy living in California, because eventually they come, as the poem goes, they eventually come for you too.
Yeah, very good. So how many?
But Ken, I want to bring up the other AI thing.
Okay, well, just 1 second before we leave this. So how many court martials did they have over there in Hamas about the Palestinians killing Jews? Did they capture the people who raided Israel on October 7th or 6th and put them on trial?
They've said,
did they put them on trial for killing innocent people?
Actually, on that, Ken, Hamas has said that if there are fair trials for both sides, they would hand over. They would. But again, Israel has said that they wouldn't. Has said they're not going to agree to hand over. They would. Hamas said again they would let in international officials, including lawyers, to basically investigate all of the allegations. Again, as long as they did it basically both in Israel and in Gaza. But again, of course, Israel, because again,
I don't believe you. I don't believe
that would,
you.
of course, no, that would Hamas. No, they did say that. They literally said that. I could.
Who?
Hamas.
Well, no, there's not Hamas.
Who? Obeyed. Armor.
Who said it? Who said it? Who said it?
The Hamas spokesperson again, and actually again, I think the Hamza, the guy that Israel killed, who was their negotiator, he said that that Hamas would be happy for an international tribunal essentially to put both of them, that they would accept the judgment. They said they would let in again, a UN official. I think he says specifically UN officials to come in and an international body essentially to come in and investigate, because again they know that there'll be far more crimes that Israel has committed than Hamas has, because Hamas doesn't have tanks and 2,000-pound bombs, so and again Hamas actually is mostly, again except for October 7th, Hamas has almost entirely been killing the soldiers. Again, just on that one day that they killed definitely get a number of civilians. But compared to again, and they certainly haven't killed. They've been killing. Hamas actually, as far as we can, again, because their rockets kill almost no. They occasionally kill like one person, maybe, a month or so. So again, the 99% of the people Hamas has killed since October 7th have been Israeli soldiers. They've killed almost no Israeli civilians, because again they're not fighting any Israeli civilians, because again the only people coming into Gaza to fight Hamas are soldiers.
Do you think they'll get a peace prize for that?
No, you don't get a peace prize for that. Although again, you do. You do for apparently for telling other countries to invade your country. In the case of the last recipient. But here, yeah, Ken, let me show this.
Okay, wait a second. Let's please before we jump into that. This is an AI thing, right? Before we go into that, so what do you feel? What you got a position on this, Daryl? Is it appropriate to try to do things proportionally if you're involved in an extreme conflict, or do you just try to win?
I think the closer you can play by the rules, the better. So I would say I would reject you just go for the win, whatever that means. I mean, I'm really uncomfortable right now. My personal situation is a wreck, but I'm looking at what I'm doing while children are starving, and that now it includes Somalia. So you got Gaza, Somalia, Sudan, and you hear very little about Myanmar. So there's some like really wicked stuff going on that doesn't need to happen, meaning that there's sufficient capital out here to make everybody's situation a lot easier, if not allow people to be much more productive. And it's not happening. And
So
and
what does that have to do with you?
well,
You
I would
said
have
you're
that
uncomfortable
that
about it.
a nicer economic system in one, Dow probably wouldn't have as many. He would have more government support, for example, if say Bill Clinton had it, reformed welfare, things like that would materially affect people like Daryl.
Well, where do you go? Where do you go if you can't get it here? Where do you go, Alex? Cuba,
Yeah, they have
Venezuela?
in terms of
I wouldn't mind being
they
in either one of those situations, actually.
much better. And well, like you said yourself, Ken, China. I mean, I think China, for every obviously China has basically eliminated their extreme poverty anyway. Where we definitely have extreme poverty in this country.
Ugly poverty. I'm in good shape compared to people who are really poor.
Yeah, I mean, people are on the streets and so on.
Forget the streets.
I'll bring up the point again. Salt Lake City figured out how to end homelessness again and it was cheaper than putting them in jail with that program where they actually get paid to house them, and it turned up to be. But again, it turned out to work basically too well, so of course they ended it.
Right, that place, Nevada, even in New York. Even in New York, when they put people in housing first, then put wraparound services nearby or in the same building, you get a better outcome. But that doesn't satisfy the need of the victims, quote unquote, because it's coming directly out of their wallets that these people get to survive. And it's like nonsense. Your wallet money's going to Elon Musk. That's where your money. They kick that. What I'm thinking about, Alex, is what about a program in which everyone refrains from doing deductions on their pay? And, at the end of the year, you settle up. You take the money that you would be giving directly to the federal government and you put it in, I don't know, a savings account, whatever you want to do, but you make it available for your community's local needs first. And if the government wants the money, then let them come and get it. We have lawyers to substantiate that the money's being saved. I mean, you got to do it differently than how you're currently doing it. Otherwise, Otherwise, you continue the system in which states that have capital are supporting states that are without capital, using the federal government as the launderer or the purveyor, and I'm paying for stuff that I don't want.
Right. Well, there's that innovative program that's in parts of Italy where, a bunch of workers you take, who are unemployed, who've been, laid off, you can take like a lump sum payment essentially, a few.
And start a business.
Start your own worker co-op.
Yeah.
That way.
Yeah.
It has to be a worker co-op, but again, that's in the region of Emilia Romagna in northern Italy. That and they have like something like 10-15% of their economy are worker co-ops. So it's actually a very it's also how Mondragon in Spain got started. So stuff like that. And actually again, well, it's unfortunate because that was Jeremy Corbyn was basically proposing to do that if he ever got elected prime minister in England.
Anti-Semite.
Yeah, right. But guys, I gotta go in a little bit because I gotta do some Thanksgiving shopping before everything closes because it's not going to be available tomorrow. But here, let me show this thing on on AI before I go, so you guys can talk about here. So yeah, so again, this is on the idea: should it be illegal to in law to use AI to fool people?
Yes.
Yes. Otherwise, well, before you even show this, who's going to make the judgment call?
Well, it's going
to give that authority to somebody.
Like anything else, the courts are going to have to set the parameters. That's how it always works with law. The courts are going to set the precedents, the cases. What is and what isn't fraud with AI.
So our responsible Congress will set the law, and our president will sign the law. Not happening in this lifetime.
Or they'll override his veto when he.
Yeah, they can't even get 60 votes. What are you talking about?
Right. Well,
it ain't happening.
Okay,
so you
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Because he's got to go. Go ahead, Al.
Yeah. So here again, yeah. So here,
zoom in.
Aggressive and well,
you can show this video here, right?
It's a set format. But here, you guys, here, I want it to be illegal to knowingly circulate AI footage and pass it off as real. Okay, that's pretty simple. Again, here's an example. Again, yeah, these racists are circulating these fake videos of like some black woman who's shooting her mouth off in court. Again, it didn't really happen. Basically, to denigrate African Americans, say they're all freeloaders or they're all they're all criminals and so on.
Well, that's not true. They're not all criminals and legal.
Just 90%.
You gotta get yourself in trouble now. You gotta get yourself canceled.
Well, it's just not true.
Just 90%.
These were fake AI videos to do this, to just stoke hatred of
that's terrible.
Black people. They should be severe. The companies who do this again should be penalized if they don't stop people. Again, for example, and here she says, here, highly visible warnings across all AI generated videos. So this is AI, this isn't real. And again, here, so yeah, you put a little watermark in the corner that people again will, they'll crop it out and use it like it's real to fool people. Again, here, yeah. Well, here, this is interesting again, yeah, because it's also again, yeah, chat bots can be, programmed basically to convince people to self-harm even, or to manipulate. You can make a chat bot that tries to manipulate the person into basically becoming a white supremacist, or just get them,
or a Black Panther.
Yeah, same.
Oh, come on, Ken, you're gonna compare.
Why would you pick on white premises? White supremacy. That's the only crime there is. White supremacy.
They're actually being used, Ken.
White supremacists.
They're
all white supremacists. Especially if you're heterosexual.
You don't hear about Grok being woke. You hear about Grok saying, "I love Hitler."
Yeah. Hitler. What's wrong? Hitler was a vegetarian. Does that mean all vegetarians or you know?
But here's the main thing again. Here,
Hey, he came out with Volkswagen.
It's actually happened with Ossoff in Georgia. That
What?
they actually made a deep fake his opponent to you know.
I've watched like half-hour episodes of with court and this happened and so you know whole things and it's all bullshit. They just make it up, and then somewhere near the end they say this is a fictitious video.
The point is again, it's getting to the point where you know it's not yet, but in the future probably it's going to be good enough. AI is going to be good enough to actually make a video where you know make a video of Ken, you know, beating his wife, you know.
Yeah, but what about would this apply to what do you call it? You know, evangelists who give talks about you know Jesus.
No, this is just if they're using AI. If they're making the point
well,
is.
no, what if they're doing it? Yeah, they're doing it real,
to,
but it's deceptive. It's not true. You know.
Well, it's going to have to adhere to the same rules that you know with any kind of fraud. You know that if you're I mean, like if you're going to say, oh, you know, Jesus is going to come, you know, the rapture is going to be, you know, in a week from now. You can't, you know,
you don't know.
You don't know for that because that's, you know,
it's possible
that could happen. Yeah, you know.
That's right. Don't underestimate the power, you know, of beings to do things.
Yeah, but if you say, you know,
look what Trump's getting away with. You know?
You know, if you give me, you know, $10,000, I'm going to give it back to you, you know, a year from now, and you don't, you know, and you have a contract, and the contract says, you know, I'm also going to pay you, you know.
Well, that's money, but like you came up with a good point.
Then you're gonna, you know, you can send that person to jail if he doesn't pay you back.
No, lots of people have other motivations than money. Like they want to support gay marriage, or they want to stop gay marriage, or they want to stop abortion, or they want to legalize abortion, or they want to allow gender confirming, you know, changing, and they want to, you know, say all kinds of things. People are positive or negative about legalizing drugs. You know, let's just legalize cocaine and stop all of this crap.
Yeah. They're talking about this now, though, because again, some people are proposing, you know, well, executive orders and laws that will make it so you can't regulate AI.
Yeah,
which of course is, you know, we don't, you know, like any.
What's it? And wait a minute. Get down to it. Now, I'm going to assume at some point in your life you've watched pornography on the internet.
Yeah.
Just, you know, even if you did it for research, like I'm only reading Playboy because I'm doing a research.
Is that what you tell Grace?
Yeah. So I haven't found her in any of the pornography things I've watched. Right. So the thing is, what's the difference if it's AI or it's real? You know, people are going to be more concerned about seeing the real one, probably. Yeah. But then again, if the AI is good and it's better, and nobody has moles or dimples, or you know, it's more perfected, it's more exciting.
Well, the point is, you can use it to defame people.
Well, not if everybody knows that it's potentially. Well, they do that. They have porno where they have those stars committing.
Yeah.
Porno. They call it fake porn,
and people know it's not. You know.
Well, you don't.
Like
who takes time? Who takes time to read the print? Come on, they're watching the video.
Okay, here's some examples. Like, you know,
what about all the people who don't have English as their first language? You know, and
somebody,
it's all in writing in there in English. But what if they don't speak English? What about those poor people who could be led astray by an AI thing that's generated? No matter what you print on it, they're not going to be able to read it.
But one of the points is we don't want people to start thinking that basically everything is fake and nothing. If you let it have it, basically at some point everybody's gonna be like, you know, I can't trust anything, and then essentially that would break down the ties of society. If, you know, what if basically anything on the internet you couldn't tell if it's real or not? What would be, you know?
But you're getting into the point where you're saying You shouldn't allow people to lie and say things that are not true on the internet. And then what does that mean? You never get a politician to say anything. As soon as their lips are moving, they're lying. That's common. There's lots of people lie all the time. There was an interesting thing with ivermectin. Ivermectin, like all the celebrities and the night guys with TV shows and everything say it's horse medicine. It's no good, and it was a lie. They just did it so that Pfizer could come in as an emergency because there was no treatment. It treats.
They did.
It
Most
works.
of them did it. Most of them were.
Now they're using it.
There, they did it. They did it because they were told. This is.
Yeah. No. There were penalties.
Not. I presume Pfizer didn't go around paying people to. I mean, some people they probably did, but I don't think they went around telling.
They had Anthony Fauci front.
Yeah. Fauci made a lot of money on the patents.
And so then, in the case of both hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin,
that's right.
I mean, ivermectin is part of the.
It's been used for centuries for other purposes than just for horses.
No, first of all, there is a animal dosage, and then there's a human dosage. I mean, people don't go around buying dog food too much to eat as a meal. Medicine is medicine.
Right.
However, that's not the point. The point that I was making was that it's a Nobel Prize winning drug.
Yeah.
I mean, not that means a whole lot anymore, but I mean, it's also one of the key drugs, anti-parasitical, I believe, that was responsible for ending epidemics of some pretty horrible diseases.
Right.
So,
on the other hand, Daryl, telling people that quarantining doesn't work. That's just nonsense.
Well,
worked for millennia.
Actually, yes, but telling people to stay home and quarantine themselves created more contagion of COVID-19 than telling them to go out, don't go into big public, go out, walk, stay out of the house. Don't stay in confined quarters with your relatives. The first one to get it, you're all going to have it. So they told you, no, go out. It was a bad idea to have people closed up.
That's simply not true because, again, one of the most successful countries with COVID, again, just China is the one that had the most severe quarantine. Literally
yeah, they locked people up and they
putting
died.
people, forcing them to stay in their home.
No. You got to look at the data. Sweden was the most successful, and they only put severe things on older people with other diseases. They were the highest at risk. Everybody else do what you want.
Sweden also had a lot more testing than we did. So
whatever.
It's hard to say what.
But the point was authorities lied. They lied.
Yeah. Well, they do that. But guys, I gotta.
So anyhow, what's your position? Should you regulate AI or not?
Of course you should, just like anything. It's and definitely I think there's a worry again as AI gets more effective that it's going to be easy to fake a video of Ken Aaron robbing a grocery store, and then what are you going to do if the LAPD shows up at Ken Aaron's door to arrest him based on because somebody at KPFK doesn't like Ken Aaron is essentially I mean it's you could have new versions of swatting where we know that happens, people calling in police departments on like they're people they don't like to send a SWAT team to Ken Aaron said he's gonna shoot me and go break down his door and screw with him essentially. That's
yeah they call that swatting, right?
Yeah.
So I understand, but to try and protect everybody from having negative effects, Just you might as well put them in a coffin. You know, you say no cars can drive faster than 15 miles an hour. Everybody has to wear double seat belts. No smoking, no drinking, no walking fast, no bicycle riding. You fall off the bike, you could break your bones.
So that
And
there's
you can't get married either
yeah,
because
but
it's dangerous.
we still have laws for slander and libel. So
Yeah.
yes, if somebody says a bad thing about you and you can prove that it's wrong and it's malicious and it was
No, no, no,
hurt
no,
you,
no.
you can get damages. You know, we already have that. This is just applying that again to AI and try to prevent AI from being used in that way in the first place. Because like I said again, it's at a certain point you're
Is
not
the
gonna be able to trust you're not gonna be able to trust anything, and then that's gonna have a huge effect on society where you can't trust what you see. I mean, in some ways it might be a good thing that we stop being on our computers so much if we think nothing's real over there anymore.
Yeah, what do you
What
think,
time do the stores close, Alex?
Yeah,
Daryl? What do you think?
I gotta go, guys.
You got to go.
And
No, you
See,
don't have to go. I don't believe you.
that's why I believe in delivery.
It's after 10 now, and they're gonna all close up.
10:20.
I got to do a little shopping for Thanksgiving tomorrow to help my brother out. Got to pick up a few groceries.
You're gonna get a turkey.
Once again,
No, we already got the turkey, but there are a few things, crackers and crap to get.
Go to the 7-Eleven.
Well, go better there. Going Trader Joe's.
Trader Joe's.
Target.
Hurry up.
Okay, guys. You have a good night.
Have a good Thanksgiving.
Stay well, Alex.
So,
live long and prosper.
Daryl, thanks for sending me that video. We'll just talk amongst ourselves. I'll stop recording it even.
Let me see if I can. I can't.
You can what? Oh, you might have to go somewhere.
No, I was gonna turn you on to the Peter Diomedes, and can you bring? Are you able to go to YouTube and bring it up on the screen?
Yeah. What? Bring up what? What do you want me to bring up?
Peter, Peter.
1 second.
Space.
1 second.
Let me see if I have it
Peter
here.
what?
Diomedes. Dia.
I got it. Diomedes.
Yeah.
Moonshot.
Yeah.
What's that? His website or something?
That's it. That's the name of the program.
Moonshine.
Shot.
So when I'm looking, I see. I don't know if I've got it or not. It came up.
There should be three people with him.
Oh, I see his face here. Peter H. Daminis. And I don't want to subscribe. And then it's showing me a bunch of talks he's made.
Right. Do you see the one for NVIDIA?
For what?
NVIDIA.
Oh, I'm see AI, age reversal, my new AI wearable moonshites,
do the AI.
AMOD, Mostique. What did you say? AI?
Yeah, it should be 7 days ago. That's the NVIDIA one.
I got one, the new AI wearable, but you want one about NVIDIA, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you can get more out of that. I got a lot out of it, and I'm still spinning, so.
I can't find the NVIDIA. How do you spell that?
NV. Hold on a moment. Let me see if I can.
Oh, wait. NVIDIA. Oh, now I found it. Wait a second. I got 5 references.
No, if you go to his website.
I'm looking at the pages. Wait a second. Genesis Visions.
Go to videos.
Yeah, I'm looking. Here's one. NVIDIA.
7 days ago.
It's NVIDIA, and it was 4 days ago. NVIDIA.
Yeah, do that one.
Just when you thought NVIDIA it's got 62% year-on-year growth. Okay, that's the one, right? So,
Yeah.
so there it
sell
is.
this $5 spatula on Amazon and compete with hundreds
All
of
these
other
young guys
spatula
that are
sellers.
millionaires, right?
Or
of a very long-term build-out of the fundamental infrastructure of humanity, which is computing.
NVIDIA has just become this.
You heard that, right? So I'll share
Mm-hmm.
it. Let me share it. Come back here. And,
I was going to send it to you a week ago.
well, all right. Share. And let's go to get to it. I guess this is it. Oh, they keep trying to sell me something.
Always.
YouTube. And sometimes they give it's torture, the number of interruptions they give. Okay, so here we go. And I have never watched this.
I don't think you're in the right one. Oh, wait a minute.
Record.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I got to make it work.
Central bank for AI, and they're minting their own currency, which is compute, and everybody's got to buy their currency. There's got to be somebody who's going to challenge NVIDIA.
The non-incumbents are obvious.
Saudi Arabia is positioning itself as a global AI superpower.
That to me looks like we're seeing the re-architecting from the ground up of an entirely new sovereign stack.
Since I was a teenager, I've been trying to visualize how the singularity happens and what does it look like in the last few years before the singularity, and now we're right in the middle of it, and it's just, I'm giddy with excitement.
Now that's a moonshot, ladies and gentlemen.
First of all, guys, what are you doing tonight? Anybody know what they're doing tonight? I know what I'm doing tonight.
What are you doing tonight?
I'm watching on Prime Video the Age of Disclosure. Alex, you?
I'm already well into it.
You're okay. That's right. It went live at midnight last night.
That's right.
Do you guys know what this is?
No.
So, Salim, it is a tell-all documentary about the fact that we've been covering up alien visitations, spaceships for the last 80 years. So I can't wait to see it. I'm going to drag my kids along with me to watch this thing. I mean, it should be epic. Dave?
Now that you say it, I will. I didn't have plans otherwise. So I guess,
all right. Well, I mean, listen,
will.
the fact that at the same time that AGI and ASI is coming online, there's all of these, increasing evidence of, I don't know, I just think, is it causation or causality, or just,
correlation.
Correlation is what I meant. Yeah, for sure.
Well, I mean, it's definitely tied to human events that trigger. I mean, every sci-fi movie knows this. When you hit a milestone, it triggers something, and then the aliens reveal.
Okay.
So,
I'll just comment also. I mean, I mentioned in the last episode, given enough superintelligence, any and all hidden agents become shallow. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Actually,
going to be...
Alex, I'm not big on the aliens, but I am very big on intelligences everywhere. I really love your theory on that. But after we discover the nature of intelligence, we're going to find that you can compute with virtually anything, and it's happening all over the place. I just can't wait for that breakthrough. Which is connected. It's not quite as...
I think, I think it'd be interesting once in a while to have a couple of dedicated episodes to very specific topics. Like one is what's intelligence. Another one could be abundance and what the hell is it and how do you measure it, and really go deep on that topic for a whole episode. Be interesting.
You know what I was thinking after the last episode too is, Peter, the future is faster than you think is incredibly timely, and reprinting that or rewriting it with there's so much that's changed. It's just been a few years, but that book, it's the one on my backdrop, in the podcast studio in the office, and I just moved it to the front and center now because I really want everybody to flip through it again. But it's really, really prescient.
Thanks, buddy. The next book that Stephen Kotler and I have written comes out April 14th. It's called We Are as Gods: Survival Guide for the Age of Abundance. So it's a follow-on to the original book Abundance. Anyway, it's probably the best work we've done, but I agree the future is faster than you think. I'm not sure
really
what the new title would be.
Well, it's faster than you think.
Oh, no.
Clearly the way you go.
I'm not going to pull a Kurzweil on this.
Hey, that outro today is unbelievable.
It was nuts.
Creativity is crazy, but
we'll show it at the end of this episode. All right,
ask the audience during the episode to rebrand your books with video.
Yeah. Sure.
Or just all of your content. Just take, if you want to flatter Peter, take any of his books, his TV shows, from For All Mankind. Take any of that and redo it through Sora, and we'll post it.
All right, guys, let's jump in. Our Moonshots episode today here with DB2, AWG, Mr. EXO. And, last episode, we had so much content. We really went deep on hyperscalers, and it was a great, great pod. Today, we're going to continue on the conversation. There's a lot that we didn't get a chance to cover, and so we're covering it today, and I'm excited for it. Let's begin. We're going to start this episode today with chips and data centers. All right. Here we go. NVIDIA beats earnings and has record revenues. So, just when you thought NVIDIA couldn't do it again and again, we're now at $57 billion, 62% year-on-year growth driven by AI compute demand. NVIDIA has announced 10 gigawatts of AI infrastructure deals. And Jensen is expecting a $65 billion in revenue next quarter. So quarterly earnings are increasing at an extraordinary rate. Let's dive into this. So Dave, do you want to kick it off?
Well, yeah, just to set context for where we are, NVIDIA was a graphics card company doing polygons for video games. The AI community discovered it's a very good fit for neural networks. And then NVIDIA just caught the wave and took off. But they're only about halfway down the journey of redesigning the chips to be perfect for AI. And so they can price up the chips tremendously. And there's another, 2 to 10x performance gain in just the architecture and design that's still in their future. But every time they roll out an improvement like that, it's a chance for them to, increase the prices by 50, 60, 70%, and the community will buy them no matter what. So that's what you're experiencing right now with NVIDIA. You could argue whether that's sustainable or not, but clearly there's more, headroom in this ridiculously high margins that NVIDIA has.
Can I give you what I think the real story is? NVIDIA has just become the central bank for AI, right? And they're minting their own currency, which is compute. And everybody's got to buy their currency.
Why you should never charge your smartphone at night. 22 years as a cell phone repair engineer, and I'm watching people waste thousands on new phones when their perfectly good devices could last for years. Here's how to make sure you're not next. I work at one of the busiest smartphone repair shops in New York City, and what I see every day makes me angry. Last week, a retired teacher came in with a dead phone she'd only had for 18 months, ready to spend $1,200 on a new one. After checking her phone, I found what I see dozens of times every week. Phones designed to fail on purpose. This wasn't just one case. In the past year alone, my shop has seen over 3,000 phones with the exact same problem. Hundreds of thousands of dollars wasted. And the owners had no idea they were being tricked into buying new phones they didn't need. This is happening everywhere with every major smartphone brand out there. I don't know why other repair shops aren't talking about this, but smartphone manufacturers are making phones die early on purpose. And people think it's just normal wear and tear. Here's what's really going on. After fixing thousands of phones, I've found that phone makers put special chips in phones to track how you charge and make your battery and phone speed get worse over time. Every time you plug in the charger that came with your phone, it sends a signal, and that's all it takes to start killing your phone. Within months, your once fast phone gets slow and the battery dies by lunch. Within a year, you're shopping for a new phone. The worst part? I can see this chip in every new phone that comes into my shop, and it's hidden, so you'd never know it's there. I've seen this hurting all kinds of customers, but especially families and small business owners who can't afford to keep buying new phones. My repair records show they're mainly targeting average phone users who struggle the most when they have to replace their phone unexpectedly, and those battery replacements everyone thinks will fix their phones. In my shop, I've tested every kind of replacement battery. The results were shocking. New batteries don't fix the real problem. The phone is still getting signals to die every time you charge it, so new batteries quickly get bad too. Those videos are telling you to clear your cache or reset your phone. Total waste of time. The thousands of phones make your phone about 10% better, and only for a short time. Even those expensive phone speed-up services use quick fixes that can't stop what's happening inside your phone. 6 months ago, I had nothing real to offer my upset customers. Then I found a device made by a team of former phone engineers. That's called MagVolt Pro, and after testing it on hundreds of customer phones, I know it works. What makes this charger special is that it doesn't just charge your phone, it fights back against the planned phone death I see every day. It uses smart power technology that spots and blocks the bad signals while fixing your damaged battery cells. Your phone doesn't just stop getting worse, it actually gets better each time you charge it.
What do you think of that, Ken?
Last up to 4 times longer, and even make old slow phones work like new again. The technology is smart.
I'm talking about
using
the
it
ad.
Just a charger that replaces your
Well,
old
let's
one.
see,
No
how
setup,
much is
nothing
it?
to install,
80?
nothing to remember.
It's either
It protects
40
your
bucks
phone's
or 80
important parts
bucks.
while
I'll
giving
go to
it better
shop.
They're not going to tell you.
Yeah, they tell you if you go and buy it. If you go to buy it before you submit, charge your phones, you got to get through to all the bullshit.
Right.
So I'm
It'll
going
tell you at
through
the
all
end
the
of that.
bullshit.
Yeah.
Somewhere down at the end it says buy now, save up to 70%. They always say
Right.
that. So save up to 70%. There it is, 25 bucks.
That's worth it.
Well,
Oh,
that's
no, that's if you buy
that's if
3
you buy
units.
3. All right.
Right.
And otherwise it's
34?
73.
Really?
No, that's for 3 at 25 each. So 1 unit is 35. It's a gamble.
That's pretty good.
It's a gamble. Are you going to do it?
I can't do it today, but I'm going to do something other than what I have.
I'm going to save this, and I have a place to save it.
I already saved it.
I'll save it someplace.
I took a picture of it.
Yeah, you can take a picture. but I saved the page, so I can always come back here. I'll just save it there. Okay,
What
done.
you do is you go in and then you do a search
On the name
for
for
Magnavolt Pro and see what the
what everybody says.
yeah.
Right, that's right. You're right. That's the thing to do. So let me
Because
just
if you buy a regular charger, especially in a phone store,
yeah, it could cost
that,
$20.
yeah, it's gonna cost you at least that.
Okay,
So
so going back to that's the commercial was more interesting than the talk, I think. The guys who were talking are like they each have a company or they're professionals, they look comfortable and they're just yakking away and there
they
wasn't
believe they believe in abundance and they believe that AI is going to bring abundance to the planet. Is eventually you may or may not benefit. But what I wanted, if you could listen to, they just started with the data centers. So the beginning, what is it, 4 minutes, you probably could have skipped through. But the data centers, which on one hand are going to screw around with the average person's electrical bill and will make life really difficult, especially if they go back to, I think at the end of this, when they talk about nuclear, they have a new way to do nuclear, whereas rather than using rods, they use yeah, coated in carbon.
yeah, whatever. There's alternative ways of doing it that makes it safer.
Well, at least the disposal is
Yeah, yeah, makes
supposed to be more rational. The piece that I wanted you to see was, I don't even remember what it was now. Um, Hold on a second here. Let me see if I can get to it. Come on. I'm having all kinds of wonderful life experiences here. Um,
you don't know. You can relax. You're only wasting
I
my
want to see. I want to see this. I want to see this. And that was. There were two last week that I was shaking my head. Now there's a new. So what is that? That's Google. I think Genesis is Google,
Yeah.
and they've got some kind of like off the chain supercomputer. They got two of them.
Well,
And
I haven't been experimenting with any new technology because I got so many backlogs I have to handle that I get embarrassed. I do waste a lot of time, but I don't do it in terms of. I used to do like special effects and videos, or I would get into the AI thing, but I just don't. I got to do other stuff first.
Well, see, I'm gonna have to do. I'm gonna have to
I did
learn.
do one thing with AI. I told them I wanted a certain image to put in front of a video, and they gave me the
Right,
image. It was
and
it
were
was
you
about
satisfied?
no, it was about a video about Project 2025. So
Uh-huh.
I said I want like a pioneer wagon cartoon with a concrete 2025 in the back of the wagon. Okay, so that's what I want, and it did it. And it came up as a cute little cartoon with an old guy like Gabby Hayes riding a wagon, and he's got 2025 in the back, kind of that kind of a thing. And it made the picture. So and I was like primitive action. And the other thing, we use AI to find out, like you could say, do they have a fresh loaf of bread at Trader Joe's on Third Street or wherever your Trader Joe's is, and what time do they close? And they'll come back with a goddamn answer, you know, and how much it costs and so forth. So they can get because if you just Google and search, you wind up getting too many answers and too much, and it's not precise. With the AI, it becomes back precise. But anyhow, blah blah. It's it's AI. Look, the world changes. What are you gonna do? All of a sudden,
Use it.
all of a sudden, it's electric cars. All of a sudden, well, let's say there's no trolleys in New York. Then all of a sudden, oh, there was a big change in New York in the last 5 years. Electric bicycles, and
Yeah.
and they made these lanes, the bike lanes, and every on the big avenues. And so,
Yeah, but that wasn't for the electric bikes. The electric bikes.
yeah, then electric bikes come, and now you got to be careful crossing the street. You'll get knocked over by one of these bikes in Manhattan. They changed the nature of the society with electric bikes, and then the people riding
Mo-
it are like people who need a job, and they're delivering stuff. They're delivering food or messages. I don't know what they're delivering, but it's a lot of delivery stuff. And sometimes you see them where they have a big box on the back with dinner that they're delivering to someplace. And I don't know why else they're going back and forth, but they are. Lots of messengers, and they're mostly foreigners. If you walk by them, you go walking around the streets. Well, you're in the Bronx. So I was in Manhattan, but if you go around walking around like where NYU is, I get lost around NYU. I wind up walking the wrong way.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Well,
one
you
day,
have to remember the streets down there are on parallel.
they're parallel. Okay,
No, they're not.
they're not. Yeah, but I never could tell, which way, what direction. I had to stop and ask a cop. I said, "Look, my phone's not working, so I don't have a map. I can't. How do I get to 14th Street?" I couldn't
Just
believe it.
keep
So
walking north.
yeah, so but that was a change to the nature of society in
But
New
what's more
York.
important than that is the batteries.
The batteries, yeah, the batteries are
The
the
lithium batteries that cause those fires that are really challenging for the fire department.
yeah, but that's incidental. What I'm saying is that changed the nature of outdoor, your participation in walking in the street and going to the stores or whatever you're doing. That's for the whole borough. I don't know about the other boroughs, but
Yeah.
like that, it's sort of like, let's say they outlaw, let's say they say no more horses in Central Park. Now you
They're
gotta
working on
order,
that, by the way.
yeah, motorized carriages or something. Or let's say they allowed people to do a friend of mine did a special for to get publicity. She had a horse-drawn hearse,
Uh huh.
and with a coffin in it for people who died in China or whatever it was for PR. But let's say they said in New York, they probably don't allow it now, but let's say they said we will allow there to be a horse-drawn hearse
You
go through
can you
Central Park in
you can
for a
do
funeral
that. No, you don't have to confine it to Central Park. You can do that
through the city,
to
huh?
the churches.
Yeah.
Have your body moved from the funeral home to the church, but it costs. Ooh,
So yeah. So I'm just saying that things change.
I've seen that. When I was making arrangements, when I was in on making arrangements, I think it was for my mother. But anyway, we looked at that, and it's I don't know. It was over $100 a mile. I know that.
Yeah, it's expensive. Now, are you in a rent controlled apartment?
No, my brother is in a cooperative. He's in the largest cooperative in the world, Co-op City.
He owns a co-op, so that's where you're living.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's not a rent controlled.
Everything is dicey right now. Nothing is locked down.
Yeah,
My mother owned the co-op, and he
inherited it.
sort of inherited it. It's a little bit more complicated than that because there was a law passed that created the cooperative, so you couldn't just inherit it. You had to. It's complicated. Put it that way.
All right.
So all things can be fixed with capital, though. So we'll see. Hopefully, by this time next year, I'll either be. I don't. I'm unclear as to whether I'll be living here mostly. More than likely, I'll be down in the village.
Where are you going to stay in the village?
Well, actually, theoretically, that's where I live. I live at 218 West 10th Street.
Uh-huh.
But, however, once again, another drama. When my sister was in California, she had this rent controlled apartment. Now we're talking rent controlled, not rent stabilized. The thing that Mondani's talking about, and most people are talking about, are the gosh, I'm unclear as to how many. Let's say 100,000 apartments in New York that are stabilized, meaning that every year a board meets and they set what increases the landlords are going to get or decreases theoretically on the rent. That's the rent guidelines board. And so what Mondani said, it's actually controlled by the mayor because I think he gets more appointments than anybody else. Um, but my nephew's apartment, my sister's old apartment, is rent controlled, meaning that it's under a whole different system, and their rent was so low that they created a new system to increase the rent for the landlords. But there are not that many rent controlled apartments around anymore. So it will require me doing some work, but there's a difference between rent control, rent stabilized, and market value. The market value, meaning that whatever the market will bear is what they're going to charge for the apartment. So, for instance, my nephew pays something like $1,000 for a one bedroom, and right next to him is a one bedroom that is, I think it's rent stabilized, but I'm not sure. And it's going for 25, 26, maybe 3,000 a month.
Wow. It's a big difference, huh?
Yeah, definitely. So, that's why people were literally waiting for the old folks to die to get those rent controlled apartments because I'm unclear as to how that how you were able to get that
What
the
they
rent
do,
control department, how they were able to maintain it and not move it into rent stabilization.
yeah, well, it
The whole
depends.
thing is like capitalism is way too complicated, man. You
Yeah.
don't need to be going through all of this. Most of the population needs to be on something, uh, a guaranteed income system, so that when the jobs go, people don't freak out.
Uh-huh.
And in that context, the motivation then becomes the same as it is primarily now. You can make whatever it is the top that you want, and you can. The idea is now there's sufficient capital created in the system that if you don't want to do anything, nobody's going to care. The idea is keep them alive, and find them something that they're interested in, and figure out a way to make a market for it if you want to have that kind of capital moving along. That's what I'm saying. If you listen to these guys talking, yeah, it's a bit of a slog, but you get the general drift of where the people who have the power want to take the economy. And all the stuff that we learned when we were growing up, just open your window and let the wind blow, because it ain't got nothing to do with nothing. And all this stuff about, well, I've got gold now, and gold is going to keep my thing stable. And no, I mean, for a short period of time. But if you're going past 2030, they got a whole new game ready for you. You'll be buying Trump's tokens even after he's out of office. And see, people get all upset. The only thing, and you can debate this with me, and hopefully you'll convince me that I'm wrong. The only thing that has value is your labor. You stick food in your face. You exercise to become healthy. To do what? To go out and labor. And theoretically, now that we have the artificial intelligence, you can do the labor that you want and be productive without the whole slave component that was required in capitalism. Because the capital is already there. The sharing part, the intelligent part, the mental stability part, I haven't seen it in any of these guys who have really big money. And that's disturbing, because that's where you're going to have your quote unquote war. They call it a civil war. You can call it what you want. It's folks, I I am thoroughly confused that if you invest in a child, right, from the moment of birth, no matter what uh, the physicality of the child is, the child could have a physical challenge. But if you invest sufficient capital into that child will come out and create things that will advance the society such. And in capitalism, that means the child will have money making capability. And yet the folks who have it, that's not on their game plan. Yet they're not willing to do the quote unquote ugly stuff, which is just snuff those people who you don't want on the planet. I mean, as bizarre as Gaza is, and I don't even think Gaza is the worst. As bizarre as Sudan is, and Myanmar are, with regard to using weaponry to torture the civilian population, as bizarre as they are, there's no reason for it. In Sudan, it's two guys who got, after they took off the dictator, decided that only one of them can be the leader. And so they went at each other. That ain't right. At least in Myanmar, it's from my understanding, it's a whole history of military control, and but you understand what I'm saying? if the money is there, and if by investing in the population you can make even more money, why would you decide to hold on to the capital or restrict the capital?
Well, there's lots of people who invest in potential of people. They're the people who
Hmm.
run schools, the
Right.
people who hire people. If you want employees, you have to have people to hire. So you want skilled employees. So you want them to go to trade schools. You want to have advertising. You want to have training in house, so to train your staff. You want to give them benefits so that they don't quit and that they work and that they appreciate that they have an opportunity to be there.
So
So
that they stay
there's,
healthy enough so that they can be there.
yeah, they do that. Most places you work.
But what I'm
I mean,
saying is,
you will hear about horror stories about how Amazon or Walmart takes advantage and exploits labor. But most places, like when I was working in a place, that the trick they had was they have a program where every every amount of money you put into buying 401k stocks, they'll match it. Okay?
employee stock option plan.
Yeah, yeah, they'll match what you put in.
Hmm.
But you don't get that match until you work there 7 years. So every year you get a more percentage.
In other words, you start out with
And
one
if you're
percent,
there
they'll
for
match the 1%.
7 years, then you got 100%. They matched your contributions. But
Oh, that's
if you quit
pretty
after
good.
2 years, you only get 20% matching or something.
Most I ever got was 6.
6%.
Yeah, but we had a pension.
But that's a method to keep you there, to keep you.
Yeah.
So so they do that. They offer perks. They have her picnics or holiday parties. They have promotion, and occasionally they have firing people if you're too noisy,
Hmm.
and so forth. And then they hire somebody else. And not only that, they bring in cheaper labor. You know who had a real interesting scheme? It was the company was bought by GE, and then they have a company in India. So they
Hmm.
contracted the programmers in India to write software, and they paid them. So this company in LA paid the company in India, but both companies are owned by GE.
Hmm.
So so they could show as an expense having to buy the services from India, and they paid less for the same amount of labor theoretically.
Hmm.
And so they took advantage by having a factory in India. That it's both of them. It might not even be visible. It might have a different name, but it's owned by GE.
Right.
But they use people, and from your viewpoint, they're exploiting people. They're getting a benefit from the people. They're not doing it so that the people will become richer than the owners or the executives.
Well, you don't
You
have
know,
to become richer then. You just need to get, there needs to be an evaluation of labor or a respect of
well,
labor.
the labor, yeah.
And
Well, there's a white collar job, so you're making 100. Some guys are making 300. So you're not making 40,
it's still
50,000
labor.
a year. You're not making 50,000 a year. You're making 100.
It's still labor.
Yeah. Well, it's thinking. Is you're not picking up
Labor.
bricks. It's labor.
As a matter of fact, now in today's thing, in today's terms, that thinking is pretty deep
Yeah.
because even not even listen to you talk. Most workers have to think more than they have to do physical labor almost in order to accomplish their tasks.
Well, not so much on an oil rig, but yeah, depends on what you're doing. Or what if, let's say, you're a cabbie? Yeah, you got to think. You have to implement your skills. Let's call that competence. You have
Right.
to manifest competence.
But even on the not even again, there was that even. What do you think? Even what's that? On the oil rig, right? As they're able to automate that rig more and more, that's the challenge with this AI thing. As they're able to automate the rig more and more with chips and different, rather than cables, you're using something else, and the drill bits get all the time, all the time. It's constantly changing and improving. Whereas you might have gone 10 years with a certain drilling method, ain't happening today. You know, I mean, the way that you tie up a country, I don't care how much oil you have, if you can't get it out of the ground into a refinery and into somebody's machine so that they can use it, you're on the hook. So, what do? Venezuela's got all this oil, right? My understanding is that for a while, the only cracking plant for that oil was in Louisiana.
Uh-huh.
Ooh, that makes your life lovely. If the United States doesn't like you, how you getting your oil straightened out? Not to mention,
You got to make a deal with China or Russia to come build a refinery in your
right,
country.
or to take
But
oil,
then you have to train. First of all,
right,
it's three things. If you're having a refinery in your country, first thing you have to have is security that you're not going to be attacked by gangs or cartel taking over and owning the guy. So you have to have a society that's safe enough uh, for you to function. And then you have to have an education to teach people chemistry and whatever they have to learn in order to run the refinery. And then you need salesmen or brokers, and you need trucks or transportation, or like boats, or making a harbor for boats, and then or pipelines to another harbor and so forth. It's a major. You need sophistication and development. So it's not overnight. You don't.
okay, so with regard to Venezuela, you started with Rockefeller,
Oh, I didn't go, but okay.
right? Rockefeller was big in Venezuela.
Yeah.
I think even one of Nelson's children, uh
Got eaten by cannibals.
something close to that, yeah. So anyway, it started with that, and then I'm trying to figure out how it got. I think Hugo Chavez actually nationalized it, but he didn't nationalize it from Standard Oil or Esso. That whole history is really interesting when you get into it. And now with Maduro, they're just yanking his chain. And for whatever reason, the Chinese and the Russians are leaving him out there to dry. So we'll see. However, I think it's a really, really, really unwise decision wasting all that money on the aircraft and the destroyers and the cruisers and the airplanes, not for a couple of hundred
Well,
sailboats
the thing
that
is,
that can't even get to Barbados,
look
let
at the
alone get
history
to
of
the
the
United
world.
States.
Look at the history of the world and aggressive conquering that went on. It's right through World War II and right through 2025, with Russia trying to take
Right?
back the Ukraine. So,
Yeah.
there is that thing. A friend of mine used to say, like, there's a gun, and
Hmm.
my friend, there's a gun on the table. My friend says, "Don't worry, you don't have to be worried. I'll pick up the gun." And he says, "I'm going to feel much more comfortable if I have the gun." I know we're friends and everything, but I'll hold the gun. So there's, unfortunately, um, opposition, and then there's religion. Let's say look at the way the Ottoman Empire took over Europe.
It works for a minute, but not very long.
No, no, it was 1,000 years. Oh no,
Europe?
that Ottoman Empire. Let's see. I'll look it up.
No,
Let me look that up. How long?
because at the same time you had the Holy Roman Empire and
Yeah, yeah.
or Austria. Austria's up in there somewhere.
Oh, here it is. It came right up. Everybody's asking this question. How long did the Ottoman Empire last? 623 years.
When did it start?
1299 until 1922.
That sounds reasonable. Now, what
When they conquered the territories with weapons, they didn't
oh,
they didn't conquer the territory because the food was so good or they gave great sermons. They said if you become a Muslim, okay.
mhm.
If you don't, goodbye. And except for Jews and Christians, you don't have to become a Muslim, but you're a second class citizen. Let's say you can't do this.
You know why, don't you?
I don't care why. It doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying they're right or wrong because I'm just
No,
saying
I'm just saying, do you know why?
because it says in the Quran that's what to do.
Yeah, but where did the Quran come from other than it was dictated on
In the desert,
the
whatever.
mountain? No, no, he was on the mountain
All right, on the mountain. I don't
in
care.
Jerusalem,
Yeah.
the
So anyhow,
Temple Mount, which is where the second temple was.
yeah. So they
See,
say
that's what the story
this
is.
is all hearsay. But in any
No,
event, yes, it is.
okay,
Nobody there took a video. Come on, it's hearsay.
they
It's
didn't take the video, no, but
Well, the Quran comes from the Bible. My God, it basically is
yeah,
derived from
right.
the
That
Bible.
that was what I was trying to get to.
Yeah.
That they went into the Kaaba. The Kaaba had the Old Testament, the New Testament, and you know, hit it, Big Jim. How you doing?
All right, they just finished that class just now.
on
Which
American history, American
No,
Revolution.
no, no. It's a woman who's teaching a class on horror films, and they were showing I didn't realize she was going to actually show the whole fucking movie, the Blair Witch Project. So I hadn't seen. I thought that movie sucked when I saw it. I haven't really changed my mind, but it cost $17,000 to make, and it made 100. It made 220 million bucks. So go figure that. Like, why does movies like that do so well? And
The
and
director.
what was it? Black and white and very shaky.
well, yeah, if you recall, it was shot on a handheld cameras, but
Okay.
she also discussed paranormal. I give her credit. She's discussing movies that generally paranormal was another movie shot for $20,000, and that made 100, huge amounts of money. So what does that say? Why do people get attracted to see essentially evil win at the end of it? Evil wins. They evil triumphs. And I'm saying to myself, okay, so why do people go spend all this money to see that kind of stuff, particularly young kids? So, because it had a great appeal to teenagers and younger people. So anyway, that was what the class was about. She was talking about that, and I'd never had seen a movie where you're sitting with people who are in a class. Maybe 20 of the students showed up, and everybody's responding to watching the movie live in the chat. So it's an interesting way to teach watching a movie. Anyway, um,
How old was the teacher?
she's a Yale PhD. She must be in her 50s, She had late 40s. She has two kids, two young kids. She's very smart. She's very smart.
Uh, well, she's got to be smart if she can make money. Having showing the kids showing a movie. That used to be a joke when substitute teachers come into class and say, "Well, children, today we're going to watch a movie."
Well, yeah, you're right about that. I mean, I guess the only time I ever saw substitute teachers do that was when they would put on guidance movies when I was in
Yeah,
elementary school and secondary school in New York City.
yeah, right. You
Um,
know, which is okay, I guess. So, was there a discussion afterwards about
oh
that?
yeah. No, she was no, it was very. She's very thoughtful. She's a very good teacher. She's a lot of fun. She's a stone cold feminist. So it's sort of everything seen through that lens, which is, has its limitations or has its strong points. So, but anyway, it was interesting to listen to it. I was just curious about doing a horror movie, completely handheld, and it
Oh,
turns
I got another one. I was
what
just thinking I was going to give you a challenge. What was another successful movie that made on a very low budget
what
besides that and
what Deep Throat?
Paranormal? Huh?
What Deep Throat?
Deep Throat? Okay. Well, that's porn. Yeah, all right.
That made a lot of money.
Okay. And there was one I saw that was shot on.
Well, Night of the Living Dead was shot.
Yeah, that looks like low end.
Yeah, that was like I think that cost about $100,000. That made a fortune.
Yeah.
But
And
these movies made a hell of a lot of money. These paranormal movies made out like bandits.
oh yeah, they
And
were terrible. The basic thing with the paranormal movies was the loud sound. Boom!
well, yeah, they would. Yeah, but again, it's
Make you jump, and you get the hair come up on the back of your
yeah,
neck.
yeah, exactly. Well, it's just. But again, what occurs in both these movies is that in the case of Blair Witch, the spell is cast early because they can't get out of the woods. And then in the case of Paranormal, it's shot in a house in San Diego, and it was obviously done by up and coming actresses or actors, and they have a real tight shooting schedule because it's done handheld.
Yeah.
And the thing about shooting on handheld is that you get intimacy with handheld. And I think back on, I had a friend of mine who was the son of Leacock from Leacock and Pennybaker. He had one of the greatest, sweetest gigs you can imagine in 1967. He's one of the 12 cameramen out at Monterey Pop shooting Otis Redding, Jimi Hendrix up close. What fun that was. But again, the intimacy of the shots is something that comes in with that kind of use of the camera work, and then you weave it together and edit it, and then you have like a classic film like that, which is absolutely amazing to watch. But anyway, so what did you guys argue about? So I don't have to argue with you about it, Kenny.
Oh yeah, no. We were talking about when Alex was here. We had a discussion about the uniform military code
Oh, about the
and
illegal.
a proportionality and what that is and where it's documented and how it works.
Oh, proportionality, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, so in other words, you guys were talking about uh, they wanting to execute these guys for putting out that video about.
no. We were talking about a very hot topic with Alex is Israel killing civilians in Gaza,
I see.
and because he was saying that a very intelligent woman from the UN, I forget her name, and part of a humanitarian department, has come up with various countries that assisted making the drones that Israel is using to kill women and children in Gaza, and
Mhm.
that they are participating in committing a war crime. And
Mm.
to me, that's like, what about the guy who gave Hitler a pair of laces for his shoes? Or, what about the bombs we just dropped on those Venezuelan drug
Mm.
boats, if that's what they were? Who you want to charge Lockheed or whatever, whoever made the bombs? Are they guilty of the same crimes of using the bombs? So it's that kind of a thing. And that's what we were talking about. And Alex wouldn't give up on it, and it says it's international law. We signed the treaties, and we have to abide by it. And I don't, and
Well, there are
I think,
certain things. There's certain things, as I mentioned to him a few days ago, when I listened to this woman from Human Rights Watch talk about her notion of how to settle the Israel-Palestine conflict, and she's essentially talking about setting up a transitional regime
yeah,
that would be akin to South Africa. And I said, well, wait a second, like you're assuming, of course, that the United States has, quote, decided not to support Israel, which is a big assumption. And, and that's an interesting thing right now to see in our contemporary politics. The New York Times had an article today about all these different people running for Congress in New York City who are sort of copycatting Zoran on the issue of Israel Palestine.
yeah,
And and there are, and then Alex and I had a big argument about the question of anti-Semitism because yes, I agree that if you criticize Israel, that I don't agree that means you're anti-Semitic. But then on the other hand, how do you then there's certain aspects of all this that still remain like what are you going to do? What are you going to if you essentially have a law of return for all Palestinians to come back to where they were in 1948, well, then how do you resolve that kind of situation? Because, and then he was talking about um, demilitarizing the IDF. I said, well, again, these are all fantasies. Like, I can't imagine the IDF putting down their weapons. There has to be some different kind of conception about how to have peace. And what disturbed me today in the New York Times was a report how the New York Times wants to basically have all the people who are now in the yellow zone that are essentially enveloped by the IDF. They want all those people to come out of the zones they're in, essentially live in refugee camps in the areas that Israel controls, and then they can get rid of Hamas with international security force. And I said, well, that's going to how long can that occur when you have Israel essentially isolated by a lot of international opinion? Plus, you have the contradictions of the countries that we're allied with, particularly the Arab countries, even Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and UAE are subject to public pressure and opinion in their own societies regarding the issue of Israel Palestine. So, anyway, it always shows you how complicated this fucking mess is.
Can I just say something? Since I just got on the show, I actually came on to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody, but I'll chime in with something else. Alex is totally devoid of reality. I mean, I talked to him at the diner. He's my friend. I care about him. He's a good person. Not as sensitive. I'll put it this way: he's selective about his sensitivity about racism. He's not. I mean, he's more of
Isn't everybody that way, Michael? I mean, to some extent. I mean, really.
not really. I mean, no, I don't think you are, and I don't think I am. No, I don't think everybody's that way. Alex will tolerate a certain amount of racism if it's in the cause that he believes in. This doesn't mean that Alex is racist at all, but he'll go along or accept the support of racists. Put it this way. Yeah, he doesn't see it. He doesn't see racism when it's not directed on a class level. So, in other words, if people who are on the lower end of the economic spectrum are being racist against, he'll see it, but he doesn't see it in any other form. I mean, I once had to remind him that not all the Jews, an overwhelming majority of them were, but there were many Jews who died at Auschwitz who had money. They didn't have it then, but they had money. They had been, if not upper class, upper middle class, or comfortable or something. They were not at the lower end of the spectrum. Racism works against all economic classes. The only difference is if you have enough money, you might be able to, if you found the right person, buy your way out. But it's still the same racism. So, yeah, I don't know.
Well, how's that apply to what we're talking about with Israel Palestine in your
Well,
mind?
no, when you're talking about, Alex is talking about, I mean, he sees Israel as racist or something like that. That's because Israel's holding the upper hand. He sees them as part of the power elite, the settler colonial aspect, or something like that. So, in that sense, if there's something racist, or I mean, in other words, my feeling has always been that if you believe that other religions can have a country based on their religion, and it's okay, let's say Iran, which is a Muslim based country and fundamentalist religious based country. But then you say that there shouldn't be a Jewish state. Is that racist? In my opinion, it is. Just the same as if you say that, Palestinians shouldn't be recognized as a cultural group because 5,000 years ago they weren't a cultural group, or 1,000 years ago, but they're a cultural group now. So, you know, it's selective. And the other thing is that if Alex wants to go so far as to say, well, this person made the drones, et cetera, we could also say, well, Alex pays taxes to the United States and the United States supports Israel. So Alex should be, criminalized under international law. He is, participating because he pays his taxes. If he doesn't believe in it, he should go to jail for not paying his taxes and stand by his principles. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Alex and reality don't necessarily walk hand in hand.
All
but,
right.
As far as the whole Israeli thing, yeah, I think you're right, Jim. I mean, people are talking about things again that are devoid of reality. Some things are just not going to happen.
Well, look, the thing that I got from talking to her, because I intend to bring her on down the road as a reality thing, is that, and I've just been watching to prepare for this woman on Monday, because I hope I'm able to keep them on for an hour, because who knows? Sarah Botstein did that Ken Burns documentary on the Holocaust in the United States, which I'm watching again, and it's pretty depressing to watch because I'm now up to the outbreak of the Second World War. But how people at the end of the war, I mean, you can see after going through something like that, when there's how many Jews were left in Europe after World War II? Maybe 1 or 2 million, 6 million are killed.
Well,
6 million are killed, and I think there were 9 million in Europe
yeah.
before the war. So so most 2/3 of all the Jews in Europe were killed. And again, I'm sitting there saying, okay, so here you have the righteousness of Arab nationalism and Palestinian nationalism clashing with what was, to those who were moving gung ho to set up a national home for Jews, is also a righteousness in their mind. And hence, how do you resolve this nowadays? And again, I would disagree. Like, look, I know Israelis. Yeah, well, I'm not. I know Israelis who are not, they don't will refer to Arabs as Arabim all the time, but because the ones I know are not in that category. But that's not to say that you do meet Israelis. I mean, I've met Israelis who feel that way, where like they soon just kill them all, that kind of attitude, and particularly after what happened, and at the same time, you sit there and look at what's going on with the Palestinians, and there's no doubt that if you don't have that other, people would say, to be sensitive to the kind of issues I'm raising is to be ensnared by Zionist propaganda. I mean, I could see someone saying that to me. And, I actually had a discussion with a young woman a few days ago who was in the encampment movement at Columbia, and she sort of was implying that, the game is over in terms of U.S. support for Israel. It's just a matter of time, given all the trends that have been set in motion, that you do have something like along the lines of what that woman feels should be the solution from Human Rights Watch. She was the head of the Middle East division at Human Rights Watch, and I compared her to the person who I knew who was her uh, in her position maybe 30 years ago, Richard Goldstein, an American Jew who was like sort of a liberal, left liberal kind of approach to the whole situation, a big advocate of a Palestinian state. And the question is, at this point, how realistic is all this? I still think the only way to, you know, there's something that has to be done beyond the imagination that we have right now in order to solve this problem. Because, I personally think it should be a united state with both Palestinians and Israelis as equal co-citizens. And of course, that is complete naive fantasy on my part. But that's uh, my gut feeling as to how it just requires, leap in faith in humanity, which, you know, given what has just happened in the past 2 years, is probably just totally naive. But anyway,
Well,
um,
it's naive, but it's also um, there's a real danger in that, which is that um, because one of the reasons, one of the justifications for the state of Israel wasn't so much the fact of the Holocaust itself, because if Israel existed during the Second World War, it might have been able to do a lot militarily to mitigate the Holocaust, but not to prevent the Holocaust, because it would have had, because Nazi Germany had a major military machine. But immigration, the fact that Jews really had nowhere to go,
right,
Jews,
right.
and that was the
Right.
main justifications for Israel. So,
That's the stress of this documentary, that the racism internally in America that led to the 1924 Immigration Act, and the way that Jews were stereotyped as inferior beings. They're polluting the blood. I mean, that's the same kind of arguments we see being expressed these days in the deportation policy of Trump. They were applied to Jews. They were applied, there was let's throw the Mexican Americans out. There was a whole other, in the 30s, about 1.8 million Mexicans were deported during the Depression to Mexico. But the point they're making in the document, and they sort of have that very powerful example of the St. Louis when those guys get turned away. So all that is there. And then, and then they talk about the Evian conference before the war, where everybody agreed, well, we're not going to take the Jews, it's your problem. And so that kind of aspect of it, which again, you know, uh, is something that, whenever you get in arguments sometimes with people about this, they just ignore that. They ignore all that, and that to me is doesn't help, because that's why you have a state of Israel. That's why you have a state of Israel with such a powerful military, 100+ atomic weapons, etc. And that's it. It's the reason why that state came into existence, precisely for these reasons. And I'm wondering and disputing when people sit there and say, well, we should ignore the Holocaust because it's essentially provides fodder for Zionism. And I don't agree with that. I don't
well,
agree with that at
yeah,
all.
of
But,
course, and that's a racist. That borders
well,
on what it's practically neo-Nazi
oh yeah,
ideology.
but the problem with that, of course, is that then, of course, some people who then stress the Holocaust then ignore completely the issue of the suffering and oppression of Palestinians. And that's the other aspect of this I have to counter. I listened to Omer Bartov a couple of weeks ago, the scholar at Brown University, and
Mhm.
I'm sort of in agreement with him, because he was essentially arguing, look, it wasn't easy for me to come to the point as an Israeli to condemn Israel for genocide, and the definition of genocide that the United Nations came up with after World War II, there's no doubt that Israel has committed that in the case of this situation in Gaza. No doubt about it. However,
Yes, there is doubt about it.
now, well, trust me, I don't want to get into a big debate about that, but I could lay it all out and I could point boom, 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 boom. However, what's the solution of what you create? You attack one genocide and then essentially uh, allow another one to happen? No way. So
Well,
that to me is a big flaw in how these people argue about all this stuff.
well, the whole thing about the genocide thing is that people forget the word intent. Now, you have to prove intent, and it's a real uphill battle.
No, you don't. You don't have to. You don't. I'm telling you, Michael. I don't want to get into a big thing about it tonight, but the issue. If you look at the Genocide Convention, it certainly demonstrates certain aspects of Israeli policy that indeed actually embody that. And again, you could say Hamas going in there and killing everybody on October 7th the way they did. I mean, that in itself had exhibits of genocide, which of course the Israeli body politic throughout Israel and throughout the world, the Jewish body politic has essentially put on Hamas that they are genocidal. And, hey, they certainly live up to different criterion of what what is a genocide and what they did on October 7th. So, I'm just saying that gives, the contradictions of it just blow my mind all the time.
Well,
Can I find out what
I would
is
agree with you on the contradiction.
Daryl, go on. Michael, let Daryl.
Oh, is that
jump in.
Daryl? Oh, okay. Ken wasn't talking. Okay, go on, Daryl.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. Can I get a source in which I can find out what actually happened on October 7th? I totally understand the kidnapping issue, especially in the context of who's holding who in what condition. However, has it ever been proven that the holes in the cars next to the concert were produced by other than Hamas?
Well, I just went through all the reports that the IDF has issued concerning what happened on October 7th. And again, I don't believe it was a false flag. I don't buy that at all. But what is clear is that you have to separate out the day in two phases, the morning and the afternoon and evening. In the morning, a legitimate surprise attack was mounted by Hamas. And the Israelis, according to the IDF's latest investigation about this, had guarding a 59-mile border only 800 troops. And they were attacked by, according to their own estimates, 3 waves of approximately 3,000 Nukba Hamas. In other words, they're better trained troops, they're commandos, if you will, plus about 1,000 people from Islamic Jihad, the PFLP, and then others who joined in, and they attacked in several waves. In other words, they had enough strength coming across the border that they essentially outnumbered them and made, it was like there's a no-brainer. They were going to get across the border because the Israelis had the Air Force set up initially when it bombed in the morning. They were under the impression that they were going to have to deal with a tunnel attack. And so they launched the Israeli Air Force attacking the tunnels, and then they didn't even know what they did because, of course, they came across the border in about 32 places. And the other thing is that they've now done individual detailed studies of all the kibbutzes and the moshavims that were attacked. And, you have little individual stories about what happened there. And a lot of these guys, these like security squad guys, some of them fucked up, some of them didn't get their shit together. Most of them fought pretty bravely. And then that's when most of the hostages were taken in the first 4 to 5 hours. the overwhelming amount, because they took them and they immediately retreated back to Gaza. But then you started to have a pylon effect of all these Israeli troops coming from all over the place. And in some cases, they didn't really understand what was going on throughout the morning. They didn't understand the scope of what was going on. Now, the question of the Hannibal directive and all that, I always thought that was bullshit. And there are examples when they mounted and used helicopters to go after some of the cars going back into Gaza, and there were examples of collateral damage. In other words, they hit a couple of cars, and there were hostages there, and they got killed by with their Palestinian captors. But on the other hand, they were responding because they were taken by surprise. I mean, that is clear. They were taken by surprise for many reasons, including their own racial arrogance, by the way. I mean, to me, it's a similar strategic screw up as occurred in the October War when the same kind of stuff occurred. They couldn't, they basically could not believe that Egypt and Syria would attack them unless they had air superiority, and they felt they were confident that they had air superiority. Hence, they dismissed all the indications that the Egyptians and the Syrians were going to attack them. And then, of course, the Egyptian and Syrian plan was to essentially, at least the Egyptians, was to get on the other side of Suez, dig in, and beat off the counterattacks by the IDF, which in fact they did, and prevent them from getting on to the other side of the Suez Canal, which and they didn't prevent. But then superpower intervention came into play. But in this particular case, it's very interesting. And now Netanyahu does not like the initial. He doesn't like all these different kind of assessments, and they gave them a whole different the grading system where they don't want to have a official detached from the state investigation like occurred in 1973, because when that occurred, the Agronaut Commission led to Golda Meir resigning. So Netanyahu is afraid politically of what the consequences would be if he's, quote, investigated as being like essentially willing to allow Hamas to rebuild itself. And that's the other thing about this. They're not going to have that happen again. They're not going to allow that to happen again. And that's where, you get into these questions of, well, is American public opinion about the Arab-Israeli conflict, Palestinian conflict changing to the point where you're going to have a serious change in the House and Senate? Because look, it could, I think Trump is very aware of the fact. Look what happened last week on Friday with that crazy meeting with him and Zoran. I mean, basically, as far as I'm concerned, he was trying to usurp the affordability issue for his own purposes by being Mr. Nice Guy to Mr. Mamdani. And then look at what he just did in the past 2 days. He now has reluctantly decided that he's going to have the GOP back up the ACA subsidies on all those healthcare premiums, which is why we had a shutdown. So it's quite interesting to see. And so the Democrats, if they don't fuck it up, which of course they could fuck it up, they have a really hell of an opportunity to take back the House and maybe in the Senate. But we'll see what happens.
Well, the only thing is I wanted to say about, I put it this way. No, I don't think there's it was a false flag thing on October 7th. But whether or not Netanyahu, who was in trouble politically in Israel, big trouble politically and legally, whether or not he was, if not dropped the ball, at least not adverse to the fact of having another war with Hamas, and of course he was only too willing to help him with that. But as far as the genocide thing, because of in the definition it says the intent to at the beginning of the definition of genocide. I'm not so I'm not so sure, and I don't think it's been proven yet it's really an uphill battle to prove that Israel has been committing genocide. It's also an uphill battle to say that Hamas was committing genocide.
All right,
Okay, you have to prove the intent.
Michael, we could sit here and argue for 10 days about this shit. I mean,
Well, that's the legal
I
aspect.
watch, but I would just suggest you read the Genocide Convention carefully, and then, I don't know if you actually listened to the whole argument in front of the International Criminal Court, because the back and forth.
Mike, Jim, you're cutting Michael off. You spoke for about 15 minutes.
No.
Yes. You got to let Michael finish his idea,
I've
even
heard
if
Michael
you completely
say this
disagree with it.
Ad nauseum.
I've heard what you said ad nauseum too.
Well, I don't
let
think
him
so.
finish what he's saying. Go ahead, Mike.
I'm sorry if I wouldn't get involved in that little. No, what I'm saying is that legally speaking, and yes, I have read the international. I have read everything about it. I'm not coming up with words as easily right now, but that's age. But the idea is that it's an uphill battle to prove that somebody intended, that their intent was to do that. It was easier with the Nazis because they actually wrote it down. They had written orders. And if you have written orders that say this is what we intend to do, yeah, then you've proven it. But if you don't have anything in writing, if you don't have, and you just have people who, or you have, proof that there were oral orders given from the top in the chain of command that this is what you're doing. But so far, I haven't seen any of that as far as Israel goes or Hamas. I mean, I haven't seen anything that said that, and maybe there is, maybe it'll come out, but then anything written that says we are there to wipe out every Jew in Israel. Was that their intent on the operation? I don't know. It may have been the ultimate goal, and it may be that that there's orders in the Netanyahu government that said, yes, kill as many Palestinians as possible. If that's the case, and you can show evidence of that, you prove that was their intention. But I'm just talking about from a legal standpoint, and also the use of words. People seem to want to use the most powerful word, what they feel is the most powerful word. What happened to atrocities? What happened to the word atrocity? What happened to the word war crimes? I mean, these are also, I would say, effective charges to put, and those are easier to prove than genocide. So, there's this whole thing about everybody has to go to an extreme on everything in order to prove their point. No, you can say that Israel used, too much force. In other words, overdid it with the use of force without accusing them of genocide. You could say that what Hamas did was an atrocity.
Improportionate. Proportionality. They violated the law of proportionality.
The problem is that you don't have to quote. It's they legally get caught up in that issue of were they ordered to do it? What's the result of what occurs?
The result is not,
and that's where
that's not what genocide is.
Look, who had a sister-in-law who was a general counsel? I did. And all she did was fucking do this shit for 25 years.
Okay,
so
well then,
listen to her talk about this stuff. What?
I just got through reading the transcripts of the transcript of a war crimes trial after World War II. And what you do have to prove these points beforehand. Even though it may seem obvious.
No, that's not true. They prove it.
You don't have to prove it.
The result. Michael, the result. The result. Killing members of the group.
Somebody with genocide.
Hold on, Michael.
Michael,
would you just look? You're wrong. Because
no, I'm not wrong. I'm right.
Wrong.
You
are wrong.
Okay?
All right.
No, you're wrong.
No, it's not.
Well,
but
okay?
no,
how easy it is
coming
to just play with language.
Of the members of the group. What, Daryl?
Thank you. Jeez. Couple of things. One, weren't there statements made by officials in the government as to the worthiness of the humanity of Palestinians in general? That's one question. Two, how many civilians, how many Israeli civilians died on October 7th? Um, and once again, I still haven't gotten the information with regard to there are people who believe that babies were beheaded and people were raped and all. Is there an independent document that states all of these atrocities that supposedly occurred on October 7th? And how do you explain telling a people to move someplace and then bombing where they moved over and over and over again? I'm not getting it. You know, I mean, you can call it what you want to call it. I'm uncomfortable paying quote unquote my taxes to invest in. I've been tripping on the B2 going to Iran, so Gaza is way beyond my pay grade with regard to. Would you object to a figure of about 300,000 Palestinian civilians dying in the last 2 years? Those are my questions.
I don't think we really know. I mean, if you accept remember, they questioned the estimates of the Palestinian Health Ministry as being accurate. And what they estimate, 60,000 people have been killed so far plus. I mean, and then you have the problem of how many people were buried. I mean, who knows how many people were killed? I mean, whatever it is, a significant number. And in the case of injured, you know, a 2 to 3 ratio? I mean, like a couple 100,000 injured in different ways. I mean, I don't know what the real figure is because there's no doubt that both sides, the case of the Palestinians, they're going to want to play up their civilian casualties. In the case of the Israelis, I mean, I don't get into this question of well, did this rape occur, that rape? I wasn't there. I don't know what the hell happened. All I know is what we're seeing. And I think they estimate about 1,200 to 1,300 dead the first day, of which a couple hundred of them were soldiers or in the military. The rest were civilians, and then about 7,000 injured. But that's the equivalent of 40,000 Americans killed in one day and about 150 to 200,000 Americans wounded in one day. Now, I don't have to tell you, we would go fucking nuts if that happened. We already saw what happened after 9/11. And then the issue of the genocide is that, the convention says one of the things is killing members of the group. Now, you could say that both sides have done that. Causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group. I could say that both sides have done that to each other. Deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. Well, one can certainly interpret what has occurred in the case of the people in Gaza as going along those lines. All right. And then the question of how you then say, okay, maybe the intent of Hamas, because remember, when they started to release the initial, there was that report that was released, I guess, about a couple of weeks into the war when they were talking about how they wanted to conquer. They want everybody to come in and jump in. Hezbollah, the Iraqi militias, Houthis to support them. And then they were talking about occupying parts of Israel. Now, did they really think that they were going to do that? I don't know. I mean, I've always been curious about that story. But and then the imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group. Okay, so can you interpret that in the case of Gaza by essentially that the hospitals are being destroyed? Now, again, you get into the question of the hospitals are built on top. I don't doubt that they built them on top of tunnels and things like that. But at the same time, there's a measure. So there's several measures. I think killing members of the group for sure, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, and deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. Those are the three that I think you can sort of, in varying ways, say has happened. And in some cases, Hamas has tried to do that to the Israelis. And then the other one there is forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. Well, I don't know, if that one applies. Certainly not the Israelis. But, again, these are the definitions of what genocide is according to the Convention of 1948. So, I mean, let's just cut, this is like, no bullshit.
Okay, go on.
I'm done.
Okay. Again, it's all done within, in other words, it's all encapsulated by the intent. And by the way, Daryl, I have to say thank you, because just as and you could say whatever you want to call it. Yeah, of course, you could be repulsed and horrified by the whole thing. I'm just talking about the misuse and extreme use of language, because I don't think there's been any proof of intent on either side. Proof of intent on either side. There is some, evidence, like you mentioned, people who have made statements, but were those statements incorporated into the orders given to the IDF, or the statements made by Hamas or Hamas officials? Was that is that built into the operation that was done on January 7th? But the idea is, there isn't any hard evidence I've seen on either side of genocide. Certainly, yes, the results, but not the charge, in order to charge and convict somebody of that. However, the fact is, it's been, these are horrific things that have been done on both sides. But if we're going to start charging genocide or something like that, what about the U.S., the Allied bombing campaign against Germany, and even more particularly Japan? I mean, that could be seen as genocide also.
It was.
Starvation campaign against Japan or something. So, but the idea is, and there would probably be more intent or more evidence of intent. So the idea is, all these things can be seen. I just want to be careful. My big thing was about the language, because I'm having a real problem with the entire human civilization just going to extremes with this, extremist polarization, where you've got to be all the way on one side or all the way on the other. You've got to use the most extreme terminology. You've got to have the most extreme things. Well, that means that this is just going to go on and get worse. That's basically what it means. And I don't see a civilization. We've had many civilizations in the course of the human race. I don't see this civilization continuing if we keep on going in those directions. That's all.
All right. Well,
I'd like to know where's the press? Where's the food? It's supposed to be. Is this supposed to be a ceasefire, and yet doesn't seem to matter to the IDF. Now, once again, I don't know because of the coverage. I don't know what Hamas is doing, but I do know that Israel's got four fronts going at the same time, all to keep one guy out of jail. A lot of people are dying, right? You want to take out a leader of a group, so you destroy a building, and 4 or 5 people die, 70 something odd people go to the hospital if there's a hospital, but you get your guy. Now, is that acceptable in the conducting a war? It appears to be now. I don't get it. You bomb hospitals, you wipe out schools.
Okay. You're just Excuse me for interrupting a minute. I shouldn't interrupt you. You want to
No,
finish?
no, go ahead. Listen.
Okay, about all it seems like, as most often happens in these things, there's contempt and discussion and regret or criticism of ongoing conditions or near history. You know, what happened in the last 6 months or the last 5 years, or what happened and what happened and what happened and what should have happened and this shouldn't have happened and so forth and so on. I think you should take a look at this the way they do in, I guess, the Pentagon or the CIA. You say, what would we like to arrive at as a practical term? No hold bars. No recommendation will be scorned because it's not acceptable. Let's take a look at potential solutions. And then from there, let's back up and say, how do we get there? Forget about all people's rights and principles and what's fair and what's just and what violates what law. Forget about it. That's ridiculous. A good example of that was the concept that there's going to be a climate catastrophe, and it's due to humanoid activities of using fossil fuels. So, and from that, and we want to get to a position of net zero. We're not using any fossil fuels, including lumber, for heat or energy, for energy. So, okay, so that's where we want to get, and that'll solve that problem, and that's where we're going to go. So, therefore, we have to do the following. And you may come up with, scientific things of alternative energy. You may even come up with social solutions of limiting certainly don't want to increase the number of people who get refrigerators and electric cars and have 15 kids and everybody gets his own automobile and everybody gets his own refrigerator. That's not going to solve elimination of fossil fuels, because you're going right against the concept of shifting the energy. You may have to consider using nuclear power, because in the short range, even though you got the problem of nuclear waste, it's the fastest way to get rid of the use of fossil fuels. And you may have to come up with new forms of government because there's people who won't go along with your concept for religious reasons, or for their IQ is too low to have the concept of calamitous climate change. This happens. And the same thing would occur if you said, how are we going to cure polio? Okay, well, we have a vaccine. How are we going to, we have to, well, polio is not contagious. So I could pick up something else like, German measles or something. Would say, well, in order to do this, we have to inoculate everybody with a vaccine against German measles all over the world, and you have to consider these factors. Living in an environment, one of the things you're going to have to adjust with is the fact that there's counterintention. Like it's been shown that China has been working on military grade viruses. And the consensus is, and you guys might go nuts on this, it's not just that it came out of the Wuhan labs. It came out by accident because they weren't done. They got it to a point where it could be contagious between humans, but they wanted to work on controlling it so that it would only work on the DNA of non-Han people, non-Chinese, and maybe not even not Chinese, but non-Han. So they didn't get to that point, so it's kind of embarrassing for them. But they were working on military-grade viruses. And, excuse me, I'm sure other countries are doing the same thing. So the point is, with Israel, what I'm saying, in the case of Israel and the Palestinians and the Ottoman Empire and the other Arab states and Lebanon and Hamas and Syria and ISIS and all the phenomena and what's that, Yemen and they have a funny name. I keep forgetting it. It's like a pronoun. The people who live there, like thems, something like that. But in any event, you have these other situations. So it seems to me the only thing sane I've heard going on here is the Abraham Accords, looking into the concept of an association of Arab states. Then why haven't they stepped in Why are they so quiet? Why haven't they intervened to handle the Palestinian question? And forget about anti-Semitism. The Jews are there. They're not going to disappear. They have every right, just equivalent to the Palestinians, of saying, I'm a person and I make my own food and I make my own industry and we're rich because we control the banks and the media. What are the Palestinians doing? They're making baskets. Well, good luck. See how far you get with the baskets. Don't get in my way, you know. So the Jews are the Jews. Even if they're nasty, even if they don't bathe often enough, even if they don't get haircuts like normal people, they are. It's just like China's trying to eliminate the Falun Gong because they don't like them, because they don't want anything that's organized to challenge the CCP. So you're going to have counter efforts. But what's a solution? I think solution-wise, the Abraham Accord, let's get some of these Arab countries to work with each other because we're going to help them out with commerce, or we're going to give them chips or whatever shit. And they recognize the state of Israel, and we'll get Israel to make some agreements like they will never attack these countries. And they, you know, and they'll never, or they won't use their atom bombs if they do attack them, but they'll never attack them. Just like they're trying to get a settlement with the Ukraine. It's pragmatic. Pragmatic. Russia is 15 times bigger than Ukraine. So to get, I totally, whoever it was that said that, you're not bringing a good enough hand to the table to demand equality in the settlement. Of like, back off. No, sorry, the other guy's got the hand. And the Russians, in all of their major conflicts, have lost hundreds of thousands of people. And it doesn't seem to bother them. The population isn't, from what I've heard of surveys, they're not looking to have a revolution to get rid of Putin. So you could say, Ukraine, okay, let's look at the future. How far can we get this to stop and not have it recur? Just say, okay, Ukraine, no NATO. We already got too many countries, and you're supposed to stop when we gave you back East Germany. You said you're going to no more NATO. No more NATO. No Ukraine, NATO, not happening. Forget about it. I don't want to go into war with the whole of Europe. And Europe is saying, I don't want Russia to have the idea they can conquer one country at a time and move into Poland next. So it's pragmatic. What's happening in Poland? Who can I rely on? Is France going to do anything in Sweden? And so, you know, you got all these countries. You got China. You got Russia. What are they doing? What's happening? What's happening to the world? What's happening with water? Forget about oil. What's happening with water? And what's happening with the sea levels? And what do we want to get done? And stop looking at democracy and dictatorships and communism as, oh, well, man's right has a right to vote and he has a right to decide everything in his life. He can't be subjugated. It isn't right. It's wrong. You can die on principle. You got to look at pragmatism. You have to look at, like, people are eating and these people are not eating. So what are we going to do? Feed the people that are not eating until we get the population to double. That will solve the problem. As soon as the population is twice as many people, no one will be hungry anymore. We can stop sending them food. Does that make sense? No. So be pragmatic. Look at a problem. If you see one column in your house is broken, don't start complaining about it and blaming people for why that column broke. Come up with a solution. Maybe get out of the house or go find a piece of lumber to put up to replace the column. Pragmatism. Make it happen. That's like, you know, in any organization or company or the army or anything. Who gets the job done and solved the problem and brought us to a higher level of existence? Not utopia. Not like, if one man is in jail unjustly, we all are in jail. That's horseshit. You know, it's absolute horseshit. Stop looking at this manipulation of emotion. Every time I watch something on the television, they start up interviewing. No, I was here when the fire started, and then this, and oh, I was here, and they took my car. And they go one case after another, after another, after another, to show you how dangerous and how miserable everything is. It's horseshit. Look at the numbers. What are the numbers in the United States? How many people have below 85% IQ? How many people are on Medicaid currently? How many people are getting food stamps? How many people, how many children are born in a single family household where there's not a man and a woman? How many people, who's graduating high school? What is the competence of a high school graduate this day as compared to 10 years, 5 years? Is it going up or down? And adjust for the pandemic and adjust for immigration. It's very hard to run a country when you're getting 10 million people every 4 years, and you got to teach them English and math and everything. It's a big burden, and maybe that's the right thing to do, but it's got to be viewed as a.
Ken,
Yeah, I'm going to stop right now.
no, you don't have to stop. I just want you to think about how education went at the turn of the 20th century.
Oh,
How many
okay.
people came in per day, and how they were processed.
I don't know. That was then. I do know this, that we saw like a religious elite college up near Santa Ana, which is north of L.A. In the woods, the big campus, and they're still teaching the classics and Latin, and it's really multi-religion, basically Christian, but they're teaching their students philosophy and the basics, Plato and Aristotle and the French guy, and this one and that one, and the basics, and speaking Latin and everything. That's one kind of education. I got an education where I went, sort of, I guess, but like most people, I wasn't really concentrating on the courses at school. But the education now has been degraded, and it doesn't give
Can you tell me where I
the
can do
population
research
is so.
on that?
We've got a population that now I think most people would concede is feels neurotic, that they can't survive, and they can't succeed in this they can't get a job, and they can't talk to women. There was a guy on Bill Maher the other day. His name was Scott something way, Malloway or whatever, going over the fact that 45% of the children of American men from up to 25 years old have never asked a girl for a date. And 50% of children below the age of 40 are living at home. What the fuck's going on? So the school system and the
Monopoly
rearing of
cats?
children, and how society works with the what do they call the Me Too movement and all this thing. It's terrible. And a guy excuse me, a guy in England was arrested and is on trial, facing 7 years prison because he touched the girl's ass. Really? Really? Come on. Did you ever go dancing? Come on. All right, yeah. He touched a stranger on the ass. 7 years? Come on. It's insane. So we've gone to on the one half, you got pornography being half of the traffic on the internet. On the other hand, you got people going back to like 14th, 15th century morality about how dare you? Why are you looking at me? All that crap. And to try and negate the normal activities of men and women, which includes lust. And, and so, but I'm just saying, looking at these political problems, look at a solution. Yeah, Israel from the Jordan to the Mediterranean, Palestinians reestablished in Jordan, where they get a whole society to live, a whole thing, agriculture, education, everything. They get to live as a population. There's already millions of Palestinians that Jordan took in. and then there was some that they kicked out too. But I'm just saying, we don't want to do it. We don't want to be in charge of that and then be like, oh, people are starving to death and they're going to die from HIV because we stopped giving them money to solve their problems. We don't want to be there. So if you can establish coalition like an EU of Arab countries and get them to stop fighting about on the basis of are you Shiite or Sunni or whirling dervish, whatever that one's called. If they can be tolerant at least to their own religion, that they're Muslims, and not get stuck on some different thing about how you wear the hat this way or you wear the hat that way. Remember that thing with Gulliver's Travels, the Lilliputians, the little people that are saying like, why are you fighting with those other people? Well, when we eat raw soft-boiled eggs in hard-boiled eggs, we put the narrow end down in the cup and we crack it on the top. They do it the other way. They turn the egg upside down. And that's the kind of thing the Muslims are fighting about with the Shiites and the Sunnis. Who's in charge and who this, that, and the other. So, but let's say the Abraham Accord or something like that. I don't know much about anything about that. I can't even name the countries that agreed. But it's an effort to create unity, not to try to adjudicate like a contract. How much did you suffer? What do you suffered? Well, you're entitled to $115 million because of mental distress. And this guy, you have to do 50 hours of service, penalties and suffering and all of that. Find a possible positive thing, not breaking countries up like North Sudan and South Sudan. Get an alliance going between Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and even if you have to go and get Dubai because, they're rich and greedy. And, try to get a unity going with that. Here's our common thing. We believe in Muhammad, but we believe in surviving. And we believe in improvement. We believe in cooperation and commerce. So let's work together. Let's work together. Let's stop arguing. Let's stop being arrogant and wanting to dominate everything. And that means, some countries are going to have to swallow their egos or put their pants back on any way you want to analyze it. So that's all. It's silly to talk about what went wrong and who did what. What's the answer? What's a pragmatic way to do it? Should we ally with China, U.S. and China, together? Why not? Wouldn't that solve a lot of problems? Why would they go make a deal where they don't have to, share some territory or something?
We helped them do away with their poverty.
Yeah, to get rid of, okay, we're all right. We support you invading Tibet, and we were doing that for many years in the movies and stuff. But, CCP is not easy to get along with. It's dramatization, and after all, it is a communist state at the core, so that kind of makes it difficult. But in any event, the thing is to look at pragmatically solutions. And I'll say this one last thing. Like Elon Musk said this once, and I'm not in worship of Elon Musk. I've only bought one Tesla. I don't have 5. So anyhow, he said, a civilization that is a single planet civilization is doomed. That's what he said. And he's right. Eventually, there's going to be a comet or Yellowstone's going to explode, or there's going to be a world war. A single planet civilization is doomed to elimination. You have to be operating on multiple planets or get to other planets. Explore. It's like if Europe never came to the New World, they'd be dead. They'd have killed each other with wars because they didn't have enough playing field to get involved with the colonialism and everything. So, finding North and South America was beneficial to Europe. It may not have helped Africa much, but it was beneficial to Europe. So that's all. That's all I'm saying is Let's talk about a theoretical solution and how can we get there. And it doesn't matter if Netanyahu gets off scot free or not, or he goes to jail for 50 years. It's incidental. Who cares? It's not important. It's one guy. What's the difference?
That's your opinion.
That's my gig.
Yeah, that's your opinion. I hope they
Start with it. Start with the end and work backwards.
Look, he was, when this whole thing started, he was supposed to be on trial.
Who cares?
Corruption.
Who
Who
cares?
fucking cares? What are you talking about? Who cares?
Who
That's
cares?
ridiculous.
Who cares if it's Jesse James
All right.
running the country?
That's absolutely ridiculous because he was on.
It's not apathy. It's pragmatism.
He was on the verge.
Pragmatism. It's pragmatism.
I mean, pragmatism. Yeah, pragmatism from his point of view is surviving. That's fine. You know, he gets away with all the corruption he did, and he avoids. That's the whole reason why he had that internal conflict in Israel that led Hamas to think they could, quote, win, end quote.
Okay, so how many lives do you want to waste because you don't like Netanyahu? How many lives do you want to waste?
My lives. It's the
500,000?
Israeli lives. Israelis who elect the son of a bitch. And he knows damn well.
There you go. He's a son of a bitch.
Defeated.
All right. Jim, you got to get the emotions out of this. What's a workable solution?
What are you talking about?
What's a workable solution?
What do you mean workable solutions? They have to have an election, period.
Why?
Falling on the election process.
Why do they have to have an election?
Oh, please. Come on, man.
Did the election here satisfy you? We just elected Trump.
We're not talking about here. We're talking about Israel. We're talking about Israel.
Well, yeah, but why do they have to have an election?
Because he's been stalling on that. Look, go study the thing.
Because you're mad about it.
It's not a question of mad. It's just a question of what happened there. I mean, you just have to go study it, please.
Yeah. So what does an election do? Who replaced
the election? He wanted to postpone
running against
having an election.
Who will be in charge?
Because he knew that you probably have enough time.
Forget Netanyahu. Who do you want in charge?
You probably have enough time.
Why don't you go assassinate him? Who's in charge?
Oh, please. Let's go.
Who do you want in charge?
Talking out of your asshole here with this bullshit.
Who do you want in charge? You can insult me as much as you want.
No, I know. I'm just
you're just degrading yourself by.
I'm not degrading myself. I'm just telling you
that degrading yourself every time you attack another individual.
You're talking with you.
You don't criticize me. Who do you want to run?
I am criticizing you. I am.
Who do you want to run Israel?
What do you mean? Who do I want to Israel? It's the Israeli.
That's a question. Who do you want?
Israeli people are the people who elect who runs them, not me.
Okay.
He has prevented, and he has consciously prevented having an election.
Yeah.
That's what's happened.
That's a waste of effort.
Objectively a fact.
Okay. That's like, as soon as we hang Hitler, the world is at peace.
No. What are you talking about? That has nothing to do with it. You're just trying to be contrarian.
Well, no, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
The resolution of eliminating a dictator does not lead to peace and prosperity.
Well, hey, the
people who come in with a solution like the Marshall Plan leads to prosperity.
To do with it, the Marshall Plan, the people he has survived according to a whole bunch of very slippery things. And one of the things he did as soon as this war occurred was he was able to immediately put off the back burner the very fact that he was on the verge of, he wanted to reorganize the Supreme Court to prevent him from being put in jail. And everybody knows that. That's a fact.
Yeah, that's a fact. Okay, great. So we hate Netanyahu. Now, what do you solve how do you solve the problem? How do you solve the fucking problem?
Well, that's a whole other issue.
That's the only issue. How do you solve the problem?
I know.
That's the only issue. It isn't the glory of justice.
Withdraw American weapons.
There's an idea.
Then you, on top of that, and this is where another one of my confusions. Pope Francis talked a good game, but I didn't see him on a flotilla. So if the problem is food isn't getting in, and we have the ability for the food to get in, what's the block? Right? You can't keep saying that, the Israelis won't let it in. Ain't got nothing to do with them. It's got to do with you. What are you going to do? So, okay, so let's say the Pope goes down there and gets in the first truck and says, "We're going in." What? IDF takes him out? That's good press. I mean, at point, and the housing that they're currently, the tents that they're currently living in is the 21st century. I mean, you don't need to do it that way. And now, unfortunately, the solutions that they've come up with regard to these hamlets that, or I should say, what's the name of the Japanese imprisonment camp? And well, that's what they want to do. They want to take him out of the war zone. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to take him out of the war zone and put him in houses under, in a fence somewhere. Hello. Do you know that oh no, this is what I heard. When you move
Manzanar. You're talking about Manzanar.
Gaza, I'm down to the Rafah crossing, $1,000 a slot to put up your tent.
Yeah.
And it was so overflowing that people couldn't even do that, even if they had the money. Tell me capitalism isn't beautiful. Come on.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, no ism in and of itself has been able to cure most of the planet's ills. However, I will say this much. You can say about, like, for instance, who broke the truce? The Israelis said, well, they started it, and Hamas would say, well, they started it. Fact is that I don't know who was under the impression that this truce was going to be a hard and fast truce and that it was going to engender peace throughout the Middle East. Come on.
There hasn't been any truce because the food hasn't come in yet.
Well, nothing. Most of the things that was supposed to be in the truce hasn't been done. And of course, Hamas isn't going to lay down its arms, doesn't want to lay down its arms. And Israel doesn't trust anybody on the Palestinian side. So how long? I mean, what kind of truce do you think this is? This is at best, a truce that's hanging on by its fingernails. And I don't see. I don't. I think it was you, Daryl, who said, where are all these other people coming in that are supposed to come in? Nobody wants to go in there. They all want to say, "Oh, you guys got to stop. You guys got to stop this." But no, don't ask us to, get our hands dirty. This is all. I don't know. I'll be generous and say it's 50% bullshit. They did get the bulk of the fighting to stop, but it's nobody's come up with any solutions. Nobody wants to.
But Michael, when is that going to happen?
When is it going to happen? Well, all I can say is, it's like I was going to say before. I mean, what makes you think the 21st century is going to be an improvement on the 20th, or even not worse? When is it going to happen? I don't know.
Let me interrupt. Let me interrupt just briefly. Abraham Accord countries: Israel, Bahrain, Morocco, United Arab Emirates, and Sudan.
And it's all about the money.
Whatever it is.
Sudan's in there?
Sudan, yeah.
Let me tell you something. This is all, again, everybody says, oh, we'll sign this agreement. I haven't seen, to me, the only solution, a two-state solution is the only solution. And yes, it's going to be, the two states are probably, pragmatically speaking, it's going to be more in Israel's favor than the Palestinians. But the Palestinians should at least have a state.
Though. I mean, even if you stop right now, first of all, they're not giving up Gaza again. I mean, that's just not going to happen.
Who isn't giving up? Israel or
Israel's not going to give up Gaza again.
You know something? I look again, and now I'm going to have my head in the clouds here a little bit and get naively optimistic. But
For it, Django, let's go.
both sides have got to have a change in their thinking. And given what just went on with the war, both October 7th and then the war that came after it, that's going to be difficult. But I'm sorry. Both sides are going to have to, first of all, set their priority. That's what life is. It's priorities. Nobody gets everything they want. You'll be lucky if you can get most of the things that you want the most. So people have got to set their priorities. I mean, Israel can say, okay, the whole area where the Jewish holy sites in Jerusalem are, that's got to be part of Israel. Fine. What about the rest? I didn't know I had a music score attached to that. Wow. So what about the rest of it? Then I would say to the Israelis, okay, you got that. That's going to be, you're going to get 1/3 or whatever of East Jerusalem. What about the other 2/3? You don't need that. I mean, you could talk about, yes, Israel needs a part of the West Bank so that if you look at the pre-1967 boundaries, aside from Jerusalem, yeah, Israel had a real vulnerable point there. They're not going to leave that vulnerable point. So the Palestinians you're only going to give them 60% of the West Bank, let's say, or 65%. But you're putting settlements right in the middle of that 65% so that people can say, but it's the land of Israel. But there's no holy sites there. I mean, the idea is it's not a priority. It shouldn't be a priority for the Israelis. And the Palestinians also on the other side. They say, well, we want this and we want that. What do you need the most? Do you need a state? Even if it can't be, if it's only on 60 or 65% of the land, it's still your state. I mean, even if Israel takes a security buffer around Gaza, yes, I agree. Hamas cannot be in control of Gaza. You can't have any of these extremist organizations in control of Gaza or the West Bank, and obviously, nor an extremist administration in Israel. And my answer to why do they have to be elections? Because Israel's a democracy, so they have to be elections. So hopefully you can get rid of the Netanyahu administration, or at the very least, the extremists within it, like this Ben Gvir nut. But the idea is that, but both sides, they got to come back from the brink. They got to come back from the extremes and say, okay, how we can make, where can we compromise, and what's the most important things to us? What do we need the most? Yes, Israel, because it's already there, in fact, on the ground, and it's powerful. Israel will probably get more of what they want the most, more of it than the Palestinians. That's looking at it pragmatically. But they're not even at that point. Everybody's saying we want everything. Both sides, we want everything. And you can't have everything. I mean, this is why I talk about why I'm so much against this extremism on either side. You can't have everything. What do you need? And then what do you want the most? What is it you need first? And then what do you want the most? And maybe if people could think that way, now we're talking about a big sea change here. And Israel would have to have a change in government. The Palestinians have an uphill battle as far as getting to that point, that way of thinking. But if they don't get to that way of thinking, you're not going to have peace in the Middle East. You're going to have ongoing war. You're going to have ongoing conflict. You're going to have ongoing craziness. And if the world wants to go crazy about it and say, oh, that means, oh no, let's get rid of Israel, or kill all the Palestinians, then it's just going to be worse. So that people on the extremes and the rest of the world aren't helping either. And that goes for the left as well as the right. So I just, that's my pie in the sky thing. If we can get people to go back to at least the kind of rational thinking we had in the post-World War II era. I mean, I'm not saying things were great then, but the idea is people were at least being willing to say, hey, okay, we can't go too far that way. That's too far. That's too much, or something like that. If we can get back to that kind of thinking, that kind of rationality, which we have because so many people had gone through the Second World War, so we're a little more attached to reality per se, then maybe we can get there. But I don't know how you're going to get this generation, and it's a computerized generation. I mean, we're practically artificial intelligence now. I mean, a lot of the population in their mind. So I don't know how they're going to get to reality that way. So that's why I say it's an idealized, perhaps even naive situation. But if we don't get there, I mean, the smart money's not on the survival of the human race, much less human civilization. So, and certainly on the smart money isn't on the survival of the United States either, or any other great power for that matter at this point. So, I don't know. We're at a we're nearing the point of no return, which means that we'll never be able to get it back to the way that it was just a few years ago. And we're nearing that, just like we're nearing that on, if we haven't passed it, on the environment. We're at the same point as far as this civilization. And the Elon Musk thing about no one civilization can survive. Well, no, I mean, the Earth is going to, I mean, in 4 billion years, none of this is going to matter. But for the time being, we better get our heads together and we better start thinking rationally, because irrationality just ain't going to cut it anymore. That's my opinion. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to destroy the conversation.
No. That's very good and cogent, I think.
And actually,
you
it's a
came
good
up with a principle. What do you have to have?
Call a
And
pregnant.
then what do you want?
And yeah. And then if it's not a high priority to you, hey, man, I mean, in other words, I had an argument with somebody I know who was what I call born again Jewish. Okay. He all of a sudden became super Jew and something like that. And very, very, 100% blindly almost pro-Israel. And I said, he's saying, yeah, but that land on the West Bank, it was part of Israel. It was given to us by God, or we bought it from somebody, or was ingrained in our DNA. I said, okay, all right. You've got the holy sites where people pray. You're gonna you hold on to those, but land, just land there. You could say, well, here I am. I mean, nobody's going there to pray or anything like that. You're just saying, well, it's our land. Okay, it's your land. Whatever happened to philanthropy, which was a big part of the Jewish tradition? Generosity. These people need a place to live. They were living there. Give it to them. Okay? It's generous. Yeah, it's your land. All of that is your land. Well, give them part of that land, the part that you don't need. That you don't need, and that isn't highest on your priority list of what you want. It's low on the priority list. So be generous. And you could say the same thing from the Palestinian side. You could say, wait, what are you talking about? What do you need? And look at the reality of the situation for once. And look at the people there. You're saying, oh, well, why do the Israelis have to be there? Well, I could turn around to the Palestinian side, as I did when I was having an argument on that end, and say, well, because, first of all, there was a Holocaust. Look at what all those years of anti-Semitism and basically the original, one of the original forms of racism, at least. And look at it, what it led up to. And they said, well, we didn't do it. I said, no, but you sided with it. There were more people when it comes to organizations like Hamas, the extreme organizations, most of those organizations were based on ideology that supported the Nazis. So I said, don't give me that crap either. That, oh yeah, well, we're right for this. No, you're guilty too. You're guilty of that. You're not directly guilty, but you're guilty. So own up, eat it up, and then take what you can get. I mean, take what, have a little respect for the other side. Maybe that's what's missing also. Respect. Respect not just for them, they're good, Israelis, yeah, they're good warriors, but respect for what their needs, their want, their culture is, etc. Have a little mutual respect there also. Anyway, but that leads me to say what I really came on the show late for was to say happy Thanksgiving, guys. So to you, Daryl, to you, Ken, and to you, Jim, if you're still there, happy and healthy Thanksgiving, or as good a Thanksgiving as you can get. I wish you.
Have a prosperous one, Mike.
Well, prosperous may be asking for a lot. Happy will be good enough. Thank you, Daryl. Thank you. So anyway, that's the real sentiment I came onto the show to express.
That's good. That's good for the holiday season. Goodwill.
Yeah. Well, you guys are my friends, so.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to end it on Mike's, I don't want to say prayer, but intentional.
Yeah. Good wishes.
Favor, good wishes. Okay,
Thank
everybody. Jim is turned off sound, but I don't know what he's left his picture up there. So, were we arguing too much? I don't know. It's okay. It's only over the phone. All right.
Yeah.
Bye-bye, you all.
Take care. We ended on the right note. Okay.
Yes, sir. Okay, good night.